He bought me like property. Now he won't let me leave. If Laura Rossi had known her name would be spoken like a transaction that night, she would have burned every document that carried it. Instead, she walked into the room wearing her mother's pearl necklace and left it belonging to a man who didn't believe in mercy. The mahogany doors closed behind her with a heavy, deliberate sound. Click, like a lock sealing fate. The air inside was thick, expensive cologne, leather chairs, crystal glasses catching dim chandelier light. 7 men sat around the table. Only one mattered. Luca Morty. He didn't stand when she entered. He didn't need to. Power radiated from him without movement. Dark suit, white shirt, open collar, no tie. The sleeves of his jacket folded neatly back to reveal strong wrists and a heavy watch that gleamed under the light. He wasn't leaning forward. He wasn't tense. He was comfortable. That was worse. Her father cleared his throat beside her. "Laura," he began, voice thin and desperate. "This is Mr. Morty." She didn't look at her father. She looked at Luca. And Luca looked back. Not at her dress. Not at her figure. At her face. Assessing. Measuring. Silence stretched long enough to become uncomfortable. Then, "How much?" Luca asked calmly. The words weren't directed at her. They were directed at the man who had given her life. Her father swallowed. "2 million," he whispered. A faint murmur moved through the room. Luca didn't react. "You lost that in cards?" Luca asked. Her father nodded once. Humiliation crawled up Alara's spine. "You signed her name," Luca continued. It wasn't a question. Another nod. The contract lay on the table between them. Her name printed in elegant ink, as if elegance made it legal. "I didn't sign anything," Laura said quietly. Every head turned toward her. Except Lucas. His gaze never shifted. "No," Luca replied. "You didn't." His voice was smooth, controlled, almost curious. "Do you understand the terms of your father's agreement?" Luca asked. "No," she said. A long pause. "He transferred guardianship authority to me until the debt is repaid," Luca said calmly. Guardianship. The word felt wrong in this room. "And if it isn't repaid?" she asked. Luca tilted his head slightly. "It won't be." There it was. Certainty. Not cruel. Not dramatic. Certain. Her pulse quickened. "What does guardianship mean?" she asked. "It means you will reside at my estate," Luca said. "You will not leave without clearance. You will not contact outside parties without approval. You will not be harmed." The last sentence landed differently. "You're assuming I need protection," she said. "I don't assume," Luca replied calmly. "I assess." The room shifted again. She took one step forward. "You bought a debt," she said, "not a person." A flicker of something passed through his eyes. "Interest." "I bought time," Luca corrected. "For what?" she asked. His gaze sharpened. "For leverage." The word wrapped around the air like smoke. She held his stare. "And what exactly do you intend to leverage, Mr. Morty?" His jaw flexed once. "Your father's obedience," Luca said. That answer wasn't what she expected. Silence settled again. Her father tried to interject. "Luca, she's innocent in this." Luca raised one hand. Just slightly. The room obeyed instantly. "You forfeited the right to speak for her," Luca said without looking at him. The power dynamic was unmistakable. Controlled. Precise. Alara's breathing slowed deliberately. "You think keeping me in your estate will make him repay you?" she asked. "No," Luca said. Her brows lifted. "Then why?" she pressed. This time. He leaned forward. "Not much. Just enough." Close enough that she could see the faint scar near his collarbone where the open shirt revealed a sliver of skin. I don't collect money from men who gamble their daughters, Lucas said quietly. I collect consequences. The room went still. Her pulse landed once in her chest. That wasn't cruelty. That was something else. Consequences for him, she said. Not me. His eyes darkened. You are not the punishment, Lucas said calmly. You are the reminder. Her throat tightened. He hadn't looked at her like an object. He hadn't spoken about her like property. And somehow that unsettled her more. Two men moved behind her. She stiffened instinctively. They will escort you to the car, Lucas said. She didn't move. Instead, she stepped closer to the table. You don't scare me, she said quietly. A dangerous thing to say. His gaze dropped slowly, then rose again. Good, Luca replied. A pause. Fear makes people predictable. The men guided her toward the door. She didn't resist. But as she reached the threshold, she turned back. Why me? She asked. The question slipped out before she could stop it. Luca's expression didn't change, but his voice lowered slightly. Because you didn't look away, he said. Her breath caught. No one else in that room had held his gaze. Not even her father. The doors opened. Night air hit her skin. Cold, sharp, alive. As she stepped outside, she felt it. His eyes on her back. Not hungry. Not impatient. Waiting. And something twisted low in her stomach. Not fear. Not yet. Something slower. More dangerous. Because Luca Morty didn't look like a man who forced obedience. He looked like a man who earned it. And Alar had the terrifying feeling. He was about to enjoy the challenge. The gates opened before the car reached them. Lara noticed that first. No guard stepping forward. No questioning. The iron bars simply parted, as if the estate had already decided she belonged inside. The car rolled through slowly. Gravel crunched under the tires. Tall cypress trees lined the long drive, perfectly spaced, perfectly trimmed, perfectly controlled. Nothing here was accidental. Nothing was chaotic. Unlike her father. Unlike her life. The mansion rose into view gradually, stone walls washed in warm light, tall windows reflecting the night sky, balconies carved with intricate detail. Old money. Old power. The car stopped. One of the men stepped out and opened her door. She didn't take his hand. She stepped out on her own. The night air smelled faintly of jasmine and something colder underneath, steel and distance. The front doors opened before she reached them. Lucas stood inside, not waiting outside like a romantic cliché. Inside, as if she were entering his territory. He had removed his jacket. The sleeves of his white shirt were rolled higher now, revealing strong forearms marked faintly with old scars. He watched her approach. You walked in, he said calmly. She stopped a few feet away. I'm not chained, she replied. His gaze flicked briefly to her neck, to the pearls resting there, then back to her eyes. No, Lucas said, you're not. A long pause. The doors closed behind her. The sound echoed through the foyer. Marble floors, high ceilings, chandeliers that cast golden light without warmth. You'll have the east wing, Lucas said. 2 bedrooms, a private balcony, security stationed outside. Security to protect me, she asked, or contain me? His expression didn't shift. Both, Luca replied. Honesty. It unsettled her. She walked further inside without invitation. Her heels clicked softly against marble. You enjoy this? She asked. Enjoy what? Luca replied. Power, she said. His gaze followed her as she moved, assessing every step. I enjoy order, he corrected. She turned sharply. And you think I'll create disorder? I think you already are, Luca said quietly. Her breath hitched. He stepped closer. not invading, just closing distance enough that she could feel the change in air pressure. You walked into a room of armed men and didn't lower your gaze, Lucas said. You spoke when you weren't invited. You challenged a contract you hadn't read. His voice lowered slightly. That is not predictable behavior. She lifted her chin. Is unpredictability a problem for you? A pause. No, Lucas said. It's interesting. The word wrapped around her like heat. Silent stretch. Heavy. Measure. Do you expect me to thank you? She asked suddenly. For what? He replied. For not dragging me here, she said. His jaw flexed once. If I wanted you dragged, Lucas said calmly, you would have been. The statement wasn't cruel. It was fact. Her pulse quickened despite herself. He noticed. Of course he noticed. You're not afraid, Luca observed. You want me to be? She asked. No, he replied. Why not? She pressed. He stepped even closer now. Close enough that she could see the faint shadow of stubble along his jaw. Close enough to feel warmth radiating from him. Fear would make this boring, Luca said quietly. Her heartbeat thudded hard in her chest. You assume this is a game, she said. I assume everything is leverage, Luca replied. She swallowed. And what am I leverage for? His gaze dropped briefly, not to her body, to the pearls at her throat, then back to her eyes. Time, Luca said again. The word felt heavier here. Inside his house. Inside his rules. You keep saying that, she said. But you haven't explained it. His voice softened slightly. I am patient, Luca said. And patience compounds. She felt the shift. Not physical. Strategic. You're not going to touch me, she said suddenly. It wasn't a question. It was a test. His gaze sharpened. No, Luca replied calmly. Even though you could, she pressed. Yes. Why? Silence. Longer this time. Because now they were no longer discussing contracts. They were discussing choice. I don't take what isn't offered, Lucas said. Her throat tightened unexpectedly. You expect me to offer? She asked. No, he said. I expect you to decide. Her breath hitched. He stepped back slightly, breaking the charged space. You'll have dinner at 9, Luca continued as if nothing had shifted. A staff member will show you your rooms. He turned to leave. She wasn't ready for that. Why didn't you let my father keep paying in installments? She asked quickly. Luca paused, without turning around. Because men who gamble daughters will gamble again, he said quietly. Her chest tightened. You think this will teach him? She asked. No, Luca replied. It will break him. The words hit like ice. And me, she whispered. Finally, he turned. Holy. His gaze was different now. Less strategic. More deliberate. I don't intend to break you, Lucas said. A pause. But I will test you. The air went still. Her pulse roared in her ears. And if I fail? She asked. His voice dropped. You won't, Lucas said. Confidence. Not assumption. Certainty. He walked away. Measured steps. Controlled pace. Leaving her standing alone in a mansion that felt less like a prison and more like a chessboard. And she had the unsettling realization. He wasn't trying to overpower her. He was studying her. Waiting. At precisely 9 o'clock, the doors to the dining hall opened. Laura had changed. Not into something soft, not into something submissive. She wore a black silk dress from the wardrobe provided in her suite, simple, elegant, deliberate. No jewelry except the pearls. If she was going to sit at his table, she would not look home. The dining hall was long, candlelit, intimidating. A single table stretched beneath a chandelier that cast golden light across polished wood. Luca was already seated at the head. Three other men occupied the right side, advisors, she assumed, sharp suits, colder eyes. No women, not even staff visible except one silent attendant near the wall. Luca looked up when she entered. He did not smile. He did not stand. But his gaze shifted, briefly, approving. "You're punctual," Luca said calmly. "You said 9, Laura replied. One of the men at the table smirked faintly. "She learns quickly," the man said. Laura ignored him and took a seat halfway down the table. Not beside Luca. Not directly across. Neutral ground. The man who had smirked leaned back slightly. "You understand you're here because of debt," he said casually. "You don't get preferences." Silence fell. Laura didn't look at Luca. She looked directly at the man. "I understand I'm here because a weak man signed something he shouldn't have," she replied. The smirk vanished. A fork paused midair. Then the temperature changed. Luca didn't raise his voice. He didn't slam his hand on the table. He simply spoke. "Marco," Luca said calmly. The man stiffened. "You will not address her again without an invitation," Luca continued. The room froze. Marco swallowed. "Of course," he muttered. Luca's gaze didn't leave him. "You mistake my patience for tolerance," Luca added quietly. A thin layer of steel coated his voice now. Marco looked down. "Yes." Laura felt it then. The shift. He hadn't defended her loudly. He hadn't dramatized it. He had corrected power. Effortlessly. Dinner was served. Plates placed. Wine poured. Laura didn't touch her glass. Luca noticed. "You don't drink?" he asked. "I don't dull my thinking," she replied. A faint flicker passed through his eyes. "Good," Luca said. Marco cleared his throat. "With respect, Luca, she should understand her position." Luca set his fork down. Slowly, the sound echoed. "She understands it," Luca said. His gaze shifted to Alart. "She understands it very well." Their eyes locked. The air thickened. He wasn't diminishing her. He was acknowledging her awareness. Marco tried again. "You're allowing her too much." "Enough," Luca said. Not louder, but final. The room obeyed. Marco fell silent completely. The other men avoided Lara's gaze now. They had miscalculated her status, and Luca had corrected it. Subtly, but decisively. Lara leaned back slightly in her chair. "You didn't have to silence him," she said. Luca's gaze remained steady. "Yes," he replied. "Why?" she pressed. His answer came without hesitation. "Because I do not tolerate disrespect in my house." The words hit deeper than she expected. "Your house. Not your property. Your house." "And what am I in your house?" she asked quietly. Silence settled. The other men shifted uncomfortably. Luca didn't look away. "You are under my protection," he said. "You keep using that word," she replied. "Yes," he said. "Protection implies threat," she said. His gaze darkened slightly. "There are threats," Luca replied. "To me?" she asked. "To anyone connected to me," Luca corrected. The meaning hung heavy. She wasn't naive. She knew what mafia meant. Enemies. Rivals. Violence. "So now I'm leverage and liability?" she asked. His voice lowered slightly. "You're neither," Luca said. "Then what am I?" she demanded. The room held its breath. He studied her for a long moment. Then, "You are a variable," Luca said. Her pulse jumped. "That sounds dangerous," she said. "It is," he replied. Dinner continued, but conversation shifted to business. Territory. Shipments. names she didn't recognize. Yet, she listened carefully. Luca noticed that too. When Marco reached for the wine bottle near her, his hand brushed too close to her wrist. Too deliberate. Too slow. Luca's chair scraped softly against the marble floor. Not loud, but enough. Marco froze. Move your hand, Luca said quietly. No emotion. No threat. Just command. Marco withdrew instantly. I apologize, Marco muttered. Luca didn't respond. He looked at Alara. You will sit beside me, Luca said. Not a suggestion. A decision. She hesitated for half a second, then stood. The walk toward him felt longer than it was. She took the seat at his right, close enough to feel his presence. Not touching, but aware. He didn't move closer. He didn't invade. He simply continued eating. Calm, controlled. But the message had been delivered. She wasn't untouchable. She was protected. And that distinction changed everything. After the men left, the hall felt quiet. Only the two of them remained. She turned toward him. You didn't need to make a display, she said. I didn't, Luca replied. You did, she insisted. He looked at her. I corrected hierarchy, he said. You don't see me as a hostage, she said. No, Luca replied. What do you see me as? She asked. A long pause. Then, a challenge, Luca said. Her breath caught. And you enjoy those, she said. His voice dropped slightly. I respect them. The room felt smaller suddenly. The space between their chairs felt thinner. Don't confuse protection with possession, she warned. He leaned back slightly. I don't possess what hasn't chosen me, Luca said. The words lingered. Chosen. Her pulse quickened again. And if I never choose you? She asked. His gaze sharpened. Then I remain patient, Luca said. The calm in that answer was more dangerous than desire. Because Luca Morty wasn't trying to force her. He was playing the long game. And Alara was starting to realize. He fully intended to win. Lara couldn't sleep. The east wing was silent. Too silent. The bed was large enough to swallow her whole, sheets crisp and cold against her skin. The balcony door stood slightly open, letting night air drift through sheer curtains. The estate felt alive at night. Watching. Breathing. Waiting. She stepped onto the balcony barefoot. Below, the garden stretched in manicured precision. Security lights glowed faintly along the perimeter walls. She rested her hands against the stone railing. I don't belong here, she murmured to the dark. You belong exactly where you are. Her body stiffened instantly. She turned. Luca stood just inside her room. No jacket. No shoes. Shirt still open at the collar, sleeves rolled. The faint light from the hallway carved shadows across his chest and jaw. He hadn't made a sound. How long have you been standing there? She asked. Long enough, he replied calmly. Her pulse jumped. Do you make a habit of entering women's rooms unannounced? She asked. Only when they leave balcony doors open, Luca said. She folded her arms. I'm not trying to escape. I know, he replied. Silence stretched between them. He stepped onto the balcony slowly, not crowding her, but close enough that the air shifted. You're unsettled, Luca observed. You're observant, she countered. Yes. A pause. You corrected Marco too quickly, she said. His gaze shifted toward the dark garden. Marco tests boundaries, Luca said. And? She asked. And I remove uncertainty, he replied. She studied him. You're not threatened by him, she said. No. Then why the reaction? Luca's voice lowered slightly. Because I don't allow men to mistake my silence for permission. The words landed deep. She swallowed. And you assume I need that kind of protection? He turned toward her fully now. You underestimate what my enemies would do, Lucas said. Her breath slowed. And what would they do? She asked quietly. His gaze dropped briefly to the pearls at her throat, then back to her eyes. They would use you, Lucas said. The honesty chilled her. I didn't choose this world, she said. No, he replied, but you are standing inside it. Before she could respond, a sharp crack split the night. Glass shattered. Pilar flinched instinctively. The balcony window behind her exploded inward. Luca moved faster than she could process. His arm wrapped around her waist. He pulled her down hard. They hit the balcony floor, his body covering hers completely. Shielding. Another crack echoed. Distant. A rifle. Her heart pounded violently against her ribs. His hand pressed firmly against the back of her head. Stay down, Lucas said quietly. No panic in his voice. Only control. Security alarms ignited across the estate. Lights flared brighter. Footsteps thundered below. She felt his weight over her. Solid. Protective. Not crushing. Anchoring. Are you hurt? He asked. No, she whispered. He shifted slightly, his body still shielding hers. Good, Lucas said. His jaw tightened. He lifted his head slightly, scanning the perimeter. His hand never left her. Never loosened. Was that for you? She asked, breath uneven. Yes, Luca replied. The answer came without hesitation. Her pulse jumped again. You knew this could happen, she said. I expected it, he corrected. Another distant sound echoed. Then silence. Security voices shouted below. Radios crackled. Luca finally pushed himself up slightly. But he didn't move away fully. He looked down at her. Her hair spilled across the stone floor. Her breathing still uneven. Her eyes wide, but not broken. Not fragile. You should have told me, she said. Would you have stayed inside? Luca asked. No. Exactly. She glared at him. That's not fair. Neither is war, Luca replied. The word hung heavy. War. This is your war, she said. His gaze darkened. No, Luca said quietly. It becomes anyone's who stands beside me. Her chest tightened unexpectedly. I'm not standing beside you, she said. You are on my balcony, Luca replied calmly. Another surge of adrenaline pulsed through her. His hand was still on her waist. Firm, warm, protective. Neither of them had acknowledged it yet. Get inside, Luca said. She didn't move. Not until you answer something, she said. His brow lowered slightly. What? If I had been hit, you began. His jaw flexed hard. You weren't, Luca said. But if I had, she insisted. Silence stretched dangerously thin. His voice dropped. They would not survive the night, Luca said. There was no exaggeration in it. No bravado. Just fact. Her breath caught. You don't even know me, she whispered. His gaze locked onto hers. I know enough, Luca replied. Footsteps rushed toward them. Security appeared at the balcony entrance. Sir, Shooter retreated beyond the north wall, one of the guards said. Luca nodded once. Double perimeter patrol, he ordered. No blind spots. Yes, sir. The guards disappeared again. Silence returned slowly. Luca stood. He offered his hand. She looked at it, then took it. He pulled her up smoothly. Their bodies close again. Closer than before. No marble table. No staff. No audience. Just night air. Broken glass. And the sound of both their breathing. You are not safe alone here, Lucas said. Are you? She asked. He held her gaze. No, the honesty struck differently now. She glanced at the shattered window. You should move me, she said. Yes, Luca replied. A pause. To my wing. The words landed like heat. Her heart skipped. That sounds strategic, she said carefully. It is, Luca replied. And nothing else? She challenged. His eyes darkened. Do you want it to be? Luca asked. Her pulse roared. The question wasn't pressure. It was invitation. She didn't answer. He stepped slightly closer, not touching, but close enough that she could feel the warmth of him again. You're shaking, Luca observed quietly. Adrenaline, she replied. Yes. A long pause. Come, he said softly. And this time. She followed. Luca's private wing was quiet in a different way. Not empty. Guarded. The hallway lights were dimmer here, softer, but the air felt heavier, more personal. Fewer doors, thicker walls, silence that belonged to him alone. Laura walked beside him without speaking. Her bare feet made no sound against polished stone. His footsteps were measured, unhurried, but there was tension in the set of his shoulders now. Not fear. Alertness. He stopped before a tall, dark wooden door and opened it without ceremony. This is where you'll stay tonight, Lucas said. She stepped inside, then stopped. The room was vast, not decorative like the guest wing. Functional, precise, intentional. Dark wood, low lighting, clean lines. A single massive bed positioned at the center, not ornamental, not indulgent, simply there. A seating area near tall windows. A private study desk. No clutter, no excess, nothing unnecessary. This was not a place for guests. This was a place where a man slept lightly and woke ready. She turned slowly. One bed, Laura said. Not a question, a statement. Luca closed the door behind them. Yes. Silence stretched. The shattered glass, the gunshot, the adrenaline, all of it seemed to settle now into awareness of space. Shared space. You said strategic, she reminded him. It is, Luca replied calmly. Her eyes moved across the room again. And where will you sleep? She asked. He met her gaze. Here. Her pulse quickened. With me? She asked. No, he said. He crossed the room and opened a concealed panel in the wall. A narrow adjoining chamber, smaller, dim, functional, revealed itself. A secondary rest room, Lucas said. I remained within immediate distance. Her shoulders eased slightly, then tightened again. So close. Still close. Heightened proximity, just separated by a wall that did not feel like distance at all. She turned toward him. You planned for intrusion, she said quietly. I planned for everything, Luca replied. A pause. Her gaze moved over him slowly, without intending to, without permission from her own thoughts. His shirt sleeves still rolled, collar open. The faint shadow of old scars across his forearms, one near his wrist, another faint line disappearing beneath the fabric at his shoulder. He noticed her looking. You're studying me, Lucas said. She didn't deny it. You've been injured, she replied. Yes. Recently? No. He didn't elaborate. Silence. The room felt warmer now, smaller. Her pulse had not fully settled from the balcony. You should sit, Lucas said. She didn't move. Instead, she stepped closer. Not challenging, not retreating, just closer. Do you always remain this calm after someone tries to kill you? She asked quietly. His voice lowered. Yes. Why? Because panic wastes time. Her breath slowed. You weren't protecting yourself, she said. He didn't respond immediately. You moved before you looked, she added. His gaze held hers. Yes. The word landed heavier than explanation. Her chest tightened slightly. Why? She asked again. This time his answer came quieter. You were exposed. Simple, factual, dangerously meaningful. The air between them shifted. He stepped closer now. Not fast. Measure. He reached out. Her breath caught, but his hand didn't touch her skin. He lifted a small shard of glass from her hair. Slow, careful, precise. His fingers brushed a strand near her temple, barely contact but enough. Heat flashed through her instantly. He dropped the shard onto a nearby table. You're bleeding slightly, Lucas said. She hadn't noticed. A thin line near her shoulder where glass must have grazed her. He moved toward a cabinet, retrieved antiseptic and gauze. When he returned, he paused, waiting, not assuming permission. May I? Luca asked. Her pulse stuttered. He wasn't commanding. He was asking. She nodded once. He stepped closer. Closer than before. The scent of him, clean, sharp, faintly metallic, filled the air around her. His fingers were steady as he cleaned the cut. Light, controlled, professional. But the closeness. The quiet. The way his breath brushed faintly across her skin when he leaned slightly nearer. Her body reacted before her mind could steady it. He noticed. Of course he noticed. But he didn't comment. Didn't linger. Didn't press. When he finished, he stepped back immediately. Distance restored. Control restored. You will sleep, Lucas said calmly. And you? She asked. I will monitor security rotations, he replied. A pause. You don't sleep after attacks. Later. Silence again. She looked at the massive bed, then back at him. You trust me here? She asked. He met her gaze steadily. I trust my perimeter, Lucas said. Not her. Not yet. Something about that honesty steadied her more than reassurance would have. She moved slowly to the bed and sat at its edge. The mattress barely shifted. You live like someone who expects war, she said quietly. I live like someone who has survived it, Luca replied. Their eyes met again. Heavy, quiet, something unspoken building in the space between them. Not desire alone. Recognition. Awareness. Two people who had just survived the same moment of danger now sharing the same air, the same night, the same silence. He turned slightly toward the adjoining chamber. Then paused. Laura, Lucas said. She looked up. If another shot is fired, he continued calmly. You stay down and call my name. Her breath slowed. You think I would? She asked. His gaze didn't waver. Yes. A long pause. She nodded once. He stepped into the adjoining room and left the door slightly open. Not fully closed. Not fully open. A deliberate line between them. The lights dim. The estate settled into night again. But this time, she was not alone. And Luca Morty, the man who never shared his space, had made room for her presence. Not invited. Not claimed. But undeniably there. Laura lay on her back, staring at the ceiling. The lights were off. The estate had returned to its controlled silence. But sleep would not come. The bed was too large. The room too unfamiliar. And through the partially open doorway, she could see the faint glow from Luca's adjoining chamber. He hadn't turned his light off. She shifted slightly. The sheets whispered. Silence answer. Then, the quiet sound of a chair scraping softly across the floor from his room. He was away. She knew it. Not because of the sound. Because she felt it. The same restless awareness that kept her pulse steady but alert. After a few more minutes, she sat up. The movement felt louder than it was. She swung her legs over the side of the bed. Her bare feet touched cool wood. You're not asleep, Lucas said from the other room. Her heart jumped. You aren't either, she replied. A pause. No, he said. She stood and walked toward the doorway. She didn't cross it. She leaned lightly against the frame. He sat at a dark wooden desk, sleeves still rolled, shirt collar open. A tablet in front of him displayed security footage. The blue glow cast sharp lines across his face. He looked different like this. Not imposing. Focus. Controlled in a quieter way. You monitor cameras personally? She asked. Yes. You don't delegate? I verify. Silence. He didn't turn toward her immediately, but he knew she was watching him. You should rest, Lucas said. I tried, she replied. He glanced at her now. You're still shaking, he observed. I'm not, she countered. His gaze lowered slightly. Your hands are, Lucas said calmly. She looked down. Damn him. She folded her arms. It's adrenaline, she said again. Yes, he replied. Another pause. You've been shot at before, she said quietly. Yes. And I am still here, he answered. She studied him. You don't talk about it, she said. There is nothing useful in revisiting it, Luca replied. She stepped 1 inch closer to the doorway. Is there anything useful in pretending it doesn't affect you? She asked. That made him look at her fully. Not irritated. Not defensive. Assessing. You think it affects me, he said. I know it does, she replied. A long silence followed. Then, you flinched, she added softly. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. When? He asked. When the second shot echoed, she said. His gaze sharpened. You were watching me? He asked. Yes. The honesty hung there. He leaned back slightly in his chair. You should not study dangerous men so closely, Lucas said quietly. She didn't look away. You should not move in front of bullets for women you barely know, she replied. That landed. The air shifted again. He stood slowly, not abruptly, not aggressively. He walked toward her, stopping just inside his doorway. They were separated by only a few feet now. No furniture, no table, just open space. You assume I did it for you, Lucas said calmly. You didn't? She asked. His voice lowered. I did it because you were there. Her pulse thudded once. That's not an answer, she said. It's the only one you're getting tonight, he replied. Silence stretched. The faint hum of security systems filled the background. You don't like losing control, she said softly. No, he replied. You didn't control that bullet. No, and that bothers you. His eyes darkened slightly. Yes. The admission was quiet, but real. She took one more step forward. Now they stood just on either side of the doorway threshold, the open line between his room and hers. You weren't calm, she said. I was functional, Luca corrected. Her breath slowed. You're not as untouchable as you want the world to think, she murmured. His gaze dropped to her lips for half a second, then back to her eyes. Untouchable is a myth, Luca said quietly. And what are you? She asked. A long pause. Selective, he replied. The word settled heavily. She swallowed. He was close enough now that she could see the faint scar near his collarbone more clearly. Close enough to feel the warmth radiating from him again. You haven't touched me, she said softly. No, you could have. Yes, but you didn't. No. Her voice lowered. Why? His gaze didn't waver. Because the moment I do, Lucas said quietly, everything changes. Her heart skipped. Changes how? She asked. His jaw tightened slightly. I do not mix obligation with desire, he said. The word hung there. Desire. Neither of them moved. The space between them felt thinner. He stepped half a step closer. Not enough to touch. enough to shift the air. You are unsettled, Lucas said quietly. Yes, she admitted. By me? She hesitated. Yes. He inhaled slowly. And yet, he added, you walked toward my door. Her pulse roared in her ears. You left it open, she replied. A flicker of something passed through his expression. Approval. Dangerous approval. You're testing me, Lucas said. You said you enjoy challenges, she replied. Silence thickened. The air felt charged. Not explosive. Contained. If I cross this line, Lucas said softly, glancing at the threshold between their rooms, it will not be by accident. Her breath caught. And if I cross it, she asked. His voice dropped lower. Then it will be your decision. The control in that answer did something to her. He wasn't pulling. He wasn't pressing. He was waiting. Patient. Deliberate. Dangerous. She stepped back slowly. One step into her room. His gaze tracked her movement. She stopped at the edge of her bed. Good night, Luca, she said quietly. He held her gaze a moment longer. Good night, Laura, he replied. She lay back down, but sleep didn't come, and neither did distance, because the door remained slightly open, and in the quiet darkness, they were both very aware that neither of them had truly walked away. The door was still open, only a few inches, but enough. Laura stared at that narrow strip of light cutting across the dark floor. Her heartbeat had not settled, not from the gunshot, not from the conversation, from him, from the way he had said desire without touching her, from the way he had stopped himself without looking strained. She sat up again. The estate was quiet, too quiet, and the silence felt heavier now. She swung her legs over the bed slowly. This time she did not hesitate. She walked to the doorway. Pause. He was standing near the window inside his room now, jacket removed, shirt still open at the collar, the faint outline of muscle visible under low light. One hand rested against the glass as he looked out into the dark perimeter. He hadn't turned the cameras back on. He was thinking. You're still awake, she said softly. He didn't turn immediately. No, Luca replied. A pause. Then he turned. His gaze moved to her. Not surprised. He had expected something. I thought you wanted me to sleep, she said. I did, he replied. But you knew I wouldn't. Yes. Silence. She stepped across the threshold. Fully. Into his room. The shift was subtle, but real. He straightened slightly. Not tense. Aware. You crossed the line, Lucas said quietly. Yes. Her pulse quickened. He studied her carefully. Why? He asked. She swallowed. I don't like unfinished conversations. That wasn't the full truth. But it wasn't a lie. His gaze lowered briefly to her bare feet against his floor, then back to her eyes. You should not get comfortable here, Lucas said. I'm not, she replied. Good. Silence settled between them again. Closer now. He took one slow step toward her, then stopped, maintaining distance. You're not afraid, Luca observed. I'm evaluating, she corrected. That almost made him smile. Almost. You believe I won't hurt you, he said. I believe you won't without reason, she replied. His jaw flexed. That's a dangerous assumption, Lucas said quietly. She took one step closer. So is bringing me into your private wing, she replied. Now the air shifted. They stood only a few feet apart. No furniture between them. No table. No guards. Just controlled breathing. You're testing boundaries again, Lucas said. You told me you respect that, she replied. His gaze darkened slightly. I respect strength, he corrected. And I don't look weak to you? She asked. He stepped closer. One step, now close enough that she could see the faint pulse in his throat. No, Lucas said. His voice had changed. Lower, thicker. Then what do I look like? She pressed. Silence stretched. His eyes moved slowly over her face. Not downward, not claiming, studying. You look aware, Lucas said quietly. Of what? Of the fact that you are standing alone in my room. Her breath caught. And you're still not touching me, she said softly. He exhaled slowly. No. Why? She whispered. His voice lowered. Because the moment I do, Lucas said, this stops being controlled. The honesty hit like heat under her skin. You think you would lose control? She asked. His gaze sharpened. I don't lose control, Lucas said calmly. But, she pressed. A pause. But I would stop pretending this is only obligation, he admitted. There it was. The truth neither of them had named. Her pulse pounded in her ears. And what is it? She asked. He stepped one final inch closer, close enough that warmth passed between them. Not touching, but undeniably close. Interest, Lucas said. The word lingered. Her breath trembled slightly. You're not the only one evaluating, she said. His eyes flickered. Oh, she lifted her chin slightly. You're disciplined, she said. You're strategic. You're protective. A pause, and you're not as detached as you pretend. That landed. His jaw tightened. You believe you understand me? Lucas said. No, she replied softly. I believe you don't like not understanding me. Silence. Heavy. He could close the distance. He could end the tension in a single movement. But he didn't. Instead, he reached up slowly. Her breath hitched. His fingers brushed a loose strand of hair away from her face. Light. Barely there. But deliberate. Electricity flashed through her instantly. His hand dropped immediately after. Control. I will not take what you haven't chosen, Lucas said quietly. The words wrapped around her like heat. And if I choose? She whispered. His eyes darkened. Then I will not hesitate. The air felt thinner. Her heart raced. For a second, she considered stepping forward, considered closing that last inch. But something inside her paused. Not fear. Awareness. He saw it. He stepped back, restoring distance himself. You should sleep, Lucas said softly, not dismissing, protecting the line. She held his gaze. You're very patient, she said. Yes. Does patience ever fail you? A long pause. No. Her pulse fluttered. She stepped backward toward the doorway. Slowly, not breaking eye contact. Good night, Luca, she said quietly. His voice was steady. Good night, Laura. She crossed back into her room. But this time, the door did not remain slightly open. He closed it halfway. Not fully, just enough to say, we are closer than we were, but not reckless. And in the darkness, they both understood something new. This was no longer just about debt, or leverage, or protection. It was becoming something far more dangerous. Mutual. 7 days after the bullet shattered her balcony window, the estate felt normal again. Too normal. The glass had been replaced within hours. Security doubled. Perimeter reinforced. Guards rotated every 6 hours instead of 8. By the following morning, no one mentioned the shooting. Not at breakfast. Not in passing. Not even in whispers. Luca had erased it from conversation, but Alara had not erased it from memory. She had simply stopped reacting. And that was what Luca noticed. It was 8:17 a.m. on the eighth morning since her arrival. Sunlight poured through the tall windows of the main study. The estate was quiet except for the soft ticking of the clock mounted above the fireplace. Lucas stood near his desk reviewing documents. Dark trousers, white shirt, sleeves rolled, no jacket. Laura sat by the window with a book resting open in her lap. She hadn't turned a page in 10 minutes. "You've read that paragraph 3 times," Lucas said without looking up. She didn't flinch. "I'm considering the structure," she replied calmly. A beat passed. "It's fiction," Lucas said. "Structure still matters," she said. Now he looked at her. Her posture was relaxed, shoulders steady, expression neutral. Too neutral. "You've adjusted quickly," Luca observed. "To what?" she asked lightly. "To surveillance." Her eyes met his without tension. "You don't hide it," she replied. "No." "You want me aware." "Yes." Silence. The air between them felt different now. Less sharp. More deliberate. He closed the folder in his hands. "You mapped the patrol shifts," Lucas said. It wasn't a question. She didn't deny it. "They rotate North Gate every 6 hours," she replied. "The South Wing guards switch at dusk. The kitchen staff leaves through the rear corridor at 7:30 p.m. His jaw tightened slightly. "And why do you know that?" he asked. "Because you expect me not to," she said. That landed. He walked slowly toward the center of the room. "You think you're adapting," Lucas said quietly. "I am," she replied. "You're integrating," he corrected. A subtle distinction. She closed the book fully now and stood. "Yes," she said. Silence stretched. He stopped a few feet from her. "You've stopped challenging me," Lucas said. "No," she replied calmly. "I've stopped reacting." His gaze sharpened. "Explain." She stepped closer, not invading, not retreating. "Measure." "You expect resistance," she said. "You're prepared for defiance. You're comfortable correcting rebellion." A pause. "But silence makes you evaluate." The truth in that tightened something in him. "You're studying me?" Lucas said. "Yes." "And what have you learned?" Her eyes didn't waver. "That you dislike unpredictability," she said. "I manage unpredictability," he replied. "You eliminate it," she corrected. His voice lowered. "When necessary." A beat passed. She took one slow step closer. "And you haven't eliminated me." The words hung in the air. He did not step back. "No," Lucas said quietly. "Why?" she asked. Silence settled. Not uncomfortable. Charged. "Because you are not chaotic," he said. "What am I?" she pressed. A long pause. "Strategic," Luca replied. That was not a compliment. It was recognition. She exhaled slowly. "Good," she said. His brow lowered slightly. "You approve?" he asked. "I prefer being understood correctly," she replied. The power dynamic shifted subtly again. She wasn't fighting him. She was positioning herself. "You're trying to determine your value here," Lucas said. "Yes." "And?" he prompted. "I'm deciding whether this is temporary containment," she said, "or something worth influencing." That word. Influencing. He studied her carefully now. "You believe you can influence this house?" Luca asked. "I already have," she replied. Silence. He thought about Marco, about the way staff now greeted her differently, about how she had stopped being viewed as that and started being viewed as protected. "You're testing loyalty," Lucas said. "I'm observing it," she corrected. His voice lowered slightly. "You're becoming comfortable." "No," she said. "I'm becoming useful." That struck deeper than challenge ever had. "You assume usefulness guarantees security," Lucas said. "No," she replied. "I assume irrelevance guarantees removal." The truth of that statement settled heavily. He stepped closer, now close enough that the tension felt personal again. You think I remove irrelevance, Lucas said quietly. You remove inefficiency, she replied, and you believe you are neither. Her voice softened slightly. I believe I'm not finished here. Silence stretched between them. No raised voices. No physical escalation. Just two minds evaluating the same board. You are not my equal in this world, Lucas said calmly. She didn't react. I don't need to be, she replied. His gaze sharpened. What do you need? He asked. A pause. To be at the table, she said. The air changed. That wasn't rebellion. That was negotiation. You want involvement, Lucas said. Yes. Why? Her eyes held as steadily. Because being protected without participation is still a cage. The words hit cleanly. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he turned away slightly, considering, evaluating. When he looked back at her, his expression had shifted. You believe you're ready to sit in a room with men who will not see you as neutral, Lucas said. I don't need neutrality, she replied. What do you need? Her voice lowered slightly. Authority. Silence fell like weight. He stepped closer again, now barely a foot between them. Authority is not given, Lucas said quietly. It's recognized, she replied. Their eyes locked. He saw it then. She wasn't asking for protection. She was asking for position. And that was far more dangerous. You're not afraid of me, Lucas said. No, she answered. You should be. Why? His voice dropped. Because I am deciding whether you become leverage, he said, or something far more complicated. Her pulse quickened. And which do you prefer? She asked. His gaze darkened slightly. I prefer control, Lucas said. A pause. And you? He asked softly. She didn't hesitate. I prefer influence. Silence. Heavy. Measure. Mutual. And for the first time since she arrived, Luca realized something unsettling. She was no longer reacting to captivity. She was negotiating power. And he hadn't decided yet whether to stop her or let her. 2 days after she asked for authority, Luca gave her nothing. No invitation. No acknowledgement. No correction. He resumed routine. Breakfast at 8. Meetings at 10. Calls in his private office. Laura noticed the difference immediately. He was creating distance. Not cold. Measure. Which meant he was planning something. It was 4:36 p.m. when it happened. The study door was slightly ajar. Not wide open. Not closed. Slightly. Laura walked past it slowly. Inside, Lucas stood near his desk speaking on the phone. Move the shipment tonight, he said calmly. No delay. Use the west route. A pause. Yes, I'm aware of the risk. Silence. Her pulse slowed. West route. She had seen the maps in his office once. The west route was exposed. Older infrastructure. Fewer control checkpoints. Why would he choose that? I don't repeat myself, Lucas said quietly into the phone. Tonight. He ended the call. The door remained slightly open. Laura did not move. She continued walking. Casual. Unhurried. But her mind had already shifted. That information was wrong. Or reckless. And Luca Morty was not reckless. At dinner that evening, he said nothing unusual. He did not mention the shipment. He did not test her openly. He ate calmly. Spoke minimally. Watched everything. Laura said nothing either. She waited. At 9:12 p.m. she entered the study. Without knocking, Luca looked up from his desk. You've abandoned formalities, he observed. You left your door open earlier, she replied. A beat passed. His gaze sharpened. And, he asked. She stepped closer. You don't move shipments west, she said calmly. Silence. He leaned back slightly in his chair. You assume I don't. You avoid exposure, she continued. You don't increase it. His voice lowered. You've been reviewing logistics. I've been listening. That flicker again. Approval. But guarded. You're concerned, Lucas said. Yes. For me? He asked. For inefficiency, she replied. The corner of his mouth moved slightly. Not quite a smile. You believe I made an inefficient decision, Lucas said. Yes. Silence stretched. The air between them thickened. He stood slowly, walked around the desk, stopped a few feet in front of her. You came here to challenge me, he said. I came here to evaluate, she corrected. And your evaluation? She held his gaze steadily. You're testing me. A pause. His expression did not change. What makes you think that? He asked. You don't speak operational details within hearing range, she replied. He took one step closer. You were eavesdropping. You left the door open. A beat. You moved the piece, she added quietly. He studied her carefully. And how would you respond? Luca asked softly. If that shipment were intercepted tonight. Her pulse quickened. That depends, she said. On what? On whether I was supposed to redirect it. Silence. Heavy. He stepped closer again. Now close enough that tension returned to the space between them. You believe this was deliberate, Lucas said. Yes. And what do you believe I'm measuring? Her voice lowered. Loyalty. A long pause. He did not blink. Interesting, Lucas said quietly. She swallowed. You gave me information, she continued. You wanted to see where it would travel. He leaned slightly toward her. And where did it travel? He asked softly. She held his gaze. It stopped with me. Silence. He was still close. Too close. You didn't warn anyone? He asked. No. You didn't attempt to correct it. No. You didn't intervene. No. A beat passed. And why not? Luca asked. Her voice dropped. Because if it was real, you wouldn't have let me hear it. The air went still. That answer was correct. Completely. He stepped back. Slowly. Very good, Lucas said quietly. Her pulse spiked. You set a trap, she said. Yes. For me. Yes. Silence. You don't trust me, she said. No, he replied. The honesty didn't sting. It clarified. And now, she asked. His gaze softened slightly. I trust your intelligence, Lucas said. A pause. Trust is earned in layers. She exhaled slowly. You expected me to act. Yes. You expected me to leak it. Yes. You expected fear. Yes. Her voice lowered. I prefer leverage. That made him look at her differently. You didn't use the information, Lucas said. No. You kept it. Yes. Silence. You're not impulsive, he observed. No. You're not naive. No. And you're not loyal. She paused. That depends, she said. His gaze darkened. On what? On whether I'm given something worth being loyal to. The statement landed heavier than challenge ever had. He stepped closer again, this time slower, more deliberate. You negotiate loyalty, Lucas said quietly. Yes. You think that makes you powerful. I think it makes me careful. Silence stretched between them. The room felt smaller again. You passed the test, Lucas said. Her pulse slowed slightly. But, he added, her breath caught. You recognize the trap. Yes, that makes you more dangerous. Her voice lowered. To you? His gaze held hers. Yes. The word was quiet, but real. And for the first time, the psychological board felt even. Not equal, but balanced. You're not trying to survive anymore, Lucas said softly. No. What are you trying to do? She met his gaze without hesitation. When? Silence fell heavy between them, and Luca Morty realized something unsettling. He had set a trap, but he might have just created a rival. 3 days after the test with the shipment, Luca did something unexpected. At 6:45 p.m. he stood outside her door. You'll join me tonight, he said calmly. Laura looked up from her book. For dinner, she asked. For a meeting. A pause. As decoration, she asked. His gaze sharpened slightly. No. That answer did something to her. She nodded once. Fine. The private lounge on the lower floor was dimly lit. Low velvet couches. Crystal glasses. 3 men already seated. And one woman. Tall. Sharp cheekbones. Black silk dress. Confidence like perfume. She stood when Luca entered. Luca, the woman said warmly. Her hand slid over his arm. Not accidental. Not brief. Familiar. Lara's breath stilled. The woman's gaze shifted to her. And this is? She asked lightly. Lara, Luca replied. No explanation. No label. The woman smiled slightly. I didn't realize you were entertaining, she said. The word felt deliberate. Luca did not remove the woman's hand immediately. He looked at Alara instead, watching, measuring, testing. Lara's spine straightened. She walked past the woman calmly and took a seat beside Luca. Not across. Not behind. Beside. The woman's smile thinned slightly. Lara is observing tonight, Luca said calmly. The woman finally removed her hand. Of course she is, she replied. The meeting began. Numbers. Routes. Territory discussions. But Alara's focus fractured. Because the woman leaned in closer to Luca than necessary. Because she laughed softly at things that weren't funny. Because she said his name like she had a right to. And Luca did not correct her. Alara felt it then. Something sharp. Unwanted. Personal. She had negotiated authority. She had positioned herself strategically. But this was something she had not accounted for. Luca's gaze flickered toward her briefly. And he saw it. The tension in her jaw. The stillness in her shoulders. The way her fingers tightened slightly against her knee. Jealousy. Settled. Controlled. But there. He turned back to the conversation. Then deliberately. He leaned slightly toward the other woman. Not touching, but close enough. Watching Alara from the corner of his eye. Testing. The woman laughed again. Alara is very quiet, she observed. She listens, Lucas said. And what does she offer? The woman asked. Silence settled. Lara didn't look at Luca. She looked at the woman instead. I offer accuracy, Lara said calmly. The woman's brow lifted. Oh, you're proposing a route that's exposed on the south end, Lara continued. A beak pass. One of the men shifted. The woman smiled tightly. That's incorrect. It's not, Lara replied calmly. Silence fell. Luca watched both of them. Then he spoke. She's correct. The woman's composure flickered. Barely. Luca leaned back slightly. Laura notices details others overlook, he said. The woman's eyes cooled. Is that why she's here? She asked. Luca's gaze shifted to Laura. Yes. A pause. And because I trust her observation. The word trust landed differently. Not full trust, but public acknowledgement. Laura felt her pulse shift. The other woman did too. The meeting ended shortly after. As the woman stood to leave, she stepped close to Luca again. You should call me, she murmured softly. Her hand brushed his chest. This time, Luca caught her wrist gently. Not harsh, not aggressive, just controlled. That won't be necessary, he said calmly. The woman's eyes flickered. Then she left. Silence remained in the lounge. Laura stood slowly. You didn't need to test me, she said quietly. I did, Luca replied. Her jaw tightened. With her? Yes. Silence. You wanted to see if I would react, she said. Yes. And? His gaze darkened slightly. You did. Her pulse jumped. That wasn't strategy, she said quietly. No. What was it? A long pause. Human, Lucas said. The word softened something between them. You enjoyed that, she said. Yes. Her breath caught. You enjoy seeing me unsettled. I enjoy knowing you care, he corrected. The air shifted. You're not the only one testing, she said quietly. He stepped closer. Then test me, Lucas said softly. The invitation hung heavy. Romance had entered the board, and it was no longer just strategy. 2 nights after the meeting with the woman in black silk, Luca hosted a private gathering. Not a celebration. Not business. Positioning. The lower hall was transformed, then golden lighting, quiet music, polished marble reflecting silhouettes of powerful people who never raised their voices. Pilar stood near one of the tall windows, wearing deep emerald silk. The dress was simple but structured, sharp lines that matched her composure. She was not introduced. She was not explained. She was simply present. And people noticed. Lucas stood across the room in conversation with 2 men from Milan, calm, controlled, observing everything without appearing to look, including her. Always her. That was when Adrian approached. Younger than Luca. Confident. Carefully charming. Standing alone in a room like this is dangerous, Adrian said smoothly. Laura turned her head slightly. Why? She asked calmly. Because men assume opportunity where they see silence, Adrian replied. She studied him briefly. And what do you assume? She asked. A faint smile touched his mouth. That you're more interesting than anyone here is pretending not to notice. Laura let the silence stretch. She knew exactly where Luca was standing, exactly what angle he could see, exactly how far the room carried sound. You observe people often? She asked Adrian. Constantly. Then you should know, she said softly. I'm rarely what I appear to be. Adrian leaned slightly closer. I suspected that. Across the room, Luca's conversation slowed. Not stopped. Slowed. His gaze had shifted. Settled. Cold. Locked. Laura tilted her head slightly toward Adrian. Tell me something useful, she said. About what? She glanced briefly toward Luca, just enough for Adrian to follow her gaze. Power, she replied. Adrian smiled. Power isn't loud, he said. It's the person everyone adjusts around without noticing. Laura's lips curved faintly. That's a good answer. She let her fingers brush the rim of her glass slowly, deliberate, unhurried. Adrian noticed. Luca noticed more. Across the hall, Luca stopped listening to the man speaking beside him. His attention had narrowed completely now. Laura wasn't being inappropriate. She wasn't obvious. But she was engaged. Present. Interested. And Adrian leaned closer. Too close. Luca set his glass down. Adrian spoke again. You don't seem impressed by any of this, he said quietly. I'm studying structure, Lara replied. And what have you concluded? That influence travels faster than authority, she said. Adrian's eyes flickered with interest. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? She asked. Someone quieter, he admitted. Her voice softened slightly. I can be quiet. Adrian smiled slowly. I doubt that. And then Luca was there. No one saw him approach. He simply arrived. Close, very close, near enough that Alara felt warmth at her back before she saw him. His voice was calm. Too calm. Adrian, Luca said. Adrian straightened instantly. Luca, he replied. A pause. Then Luca's hand settled at Alara's waist. Not gripping. Not pulling. Resting. Firm. Possessive in its stillness. Public. Visible. Unmistakable. Alara's breath caught before she could stop it. He had never touched her in front of others. Not once. The contact was controlled, but undeniable. Plain. Without words. Adrian noticed immediately. His posture shifted subtly. Respect recalibrated. She was explaining influence. Adrian said carefully. I'm aware, Luca replied. His thumb moved slightly against her side. Barely movement, but enough. Heat flashed through her instantly. Enjoying the discussion? Luca asked her quietly. His voice was low enough that only she heard the edge beneath it. She turned her head slightly toward him. Yes, she said calmly. His grip did not tighten, but it did not move either. And what did you learn? Luca asked. That power watches even when it pretends not to, she replied softly. A pause. His fingers pressed slightly more firmly. Approval. Possession. Warning. All at once. Adrian cleared his throat lightly. I should return to the others, he said. Yes, Luca replied. Adrian left. Immediately. Without hesitation. Silence settled between them. The music continued. Voices murmured around them, but Luca did not remove his hand. Not yet. Laura spoke without turning fully toward him. You intervened. Yes. Why? His voice dropped. You crossed the threshold. Her pulse quickened. So did you, she said quietly. His fingers shifted slightly higher along her waist. Measure. Intentional. Yes, Luca said. A pause. You wanted to see if I would react, he added softly. She turned her head slightly more now. And did you? She asked. His gaze was dark. Focus. Completely unguarded for one fraction of a second. Yes. Her breath slowed. That wasn't strategy, she said. No. Then what was it? His voice lowered. Dislike. A pause. Then quieter. And something else. She felt it in the way his hand remained steady. Not moving. Not releasing. The contact had become natural. As if it belonged there. Are you claiming territory? She asked softly. His jaw tightened slightly. No, Lucas said. A beat. I'm correcting perception. Her pulse fluttered. Whose perception? She asked. His gaze did not leave hers. Everyone's. Silence stretch. Heavy. Charge. Then finally, slowly, he removed his hand, but the warmth remained long after. You're dangerous tonight, Laura said quietly. So are you, Luca replied. A pause. Then softer. Don't test my restraint publicly again. Her eyes flickered. Or what? He leaned slightly closer. Not touching. but near enough that she felt the weight of his presence. Or I may forget to be patient. The word settled deep, and for the first time, his control had not felt absolute. The gathering ended just after midnight. Guests left in quiet clusters. Voices faded. Music dissolved into silence. Laura walked the corridor alone. Her heels made soft, measured sounds against polished marble. The estate had returned to its usual stillness, controlled, watchful, waiting. She had almost reached the staircase when, "Stop!" Luca's voice. "Low, close, behind her." She did not startle. She turned slowly. He stood at the end of the corridor, jacket removed, sleeves rolled, expression unreadable, but his eyes were not calm. Not entirely. "You left early," he said. "Yes," without speaking to me. A pause. "I didn't think permission was required," she replied. Silence stretched. He walked toward her, unhurried, but deliberate, each step narrowing space. "You knew what you were doing," Lucas said quietly. "With Adrian?" she asked. "Yes." She held his gaze. "I was having a conversation." His jaw tightened. "No," he said. "You were provoking a response." She didn't deny it. "And you gave one," she replied softly. He stopped directly in front of her. Close. Not touching, but close enough that the air between them felt warmer. "That was not a game," Lucas said. Her voice lowered. "Everything here is a game." His eyes darkened. "No," he said. "Some things are not." Silence. Heavy. She could feel the restrained tension in the set of his shoulders now. Not anger. Something tighter. Something more controlled because it had to be. "You didn't like it," she said quietly. "No." "Why?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped closer, now barely inches between them. Her breath slowed. His voice dropped lower. "Because he looked at you like he thought he could approach," Lucas said. A pause. "And he cannot." The statement settled like heat. "Is that authority speaking?" she asked softly. His gaze held hers. "No, Abby, that is preference." Her pulse jumped. She tilted her head slightly. "You said you don't possess what hasn't chosen you." "I don't." "Then why intervene?" Silence stretched. Longer this time. Then, "Because you wanted to see if I would," Lucas said quietly. Her breath caught. He had seen through it. All of it. "You were measuring boundaries," he continued. "You wanted to know how visible my restraint was." His voice dropped further. "And where it ends." Her chest rose slowly with breath. "And," she whispered. His eyes moved over her face, steady, searching. "You came very close tonight," he said. "To what?" she asked. A long pause. His voice lowered. "To forcing me to choose between control and impulse." The air tightened sharply. Neither moved. Neither stepped back. "Which would have won?" she asked. His jaw flexed once. "You don't want to find out in public." The words were quiet, but absolute. Her pulse thudded hard. Silence settled again. Deep. Charged. "You touch me," she said softly. "Yes." "You've never done that before." "No." "Why tonight?" His gaze dropped briefly to where his hand had rested on her waist earlier, then back to her eyes. "Because you made it necessary." Her breath slowed. "That wasn't subtle," she said. "No." "It was deliberate." "Yes." Another pause. "And effective," she added quietly. That made something flicker in his expression. He stepped even closer. Now there was no space left to ignore. Warmth radiated between them. "You reacted when I touched you," Lucas said softly. Her throat tightened. "Yes." His voice lowered further. You always react. She held his gaze. So do you. Silence. That landed. His breathing shifted slightly, controlled but heavier. You think this is balance, Lucas said quietly. She swallowed. Isn't it? A long pause. No, he said. Her pulse quickened. What is it? His voice dropped to its lowest point yet. Restraint. The word lingered in the air. Dense. Weighted. Alive. Her voice softened. And if restraint breaks, his gaze darkened. It won't. Confidence. Control. But something beneath it. Pressure. She took one slow step forward. Not retreating. Not avoiding. Closing the final fraction of space. Now she could feel the warmth of his breath. You sound very certain, she murmured. His voice lowered. I am. Silence. Then she lifted her hand slightly, not touching him, just hovering near his chest, close enough that both of them were acutely aware of the distance, or lack of it. You're still deciding what I am, she whispered. Yes. Leverage or something more complicated. Yes. Her pulse beat hard against her ribs. And tonight, his gaze locked on hers. Tonight, Lucas said quietly, I am deciding how dangerous it would be to want you. The words landed deep. She did not move her hand. He did not step away. The moment stretched. Thin, fragile, electric. Then, he stepped back, restoring distance. Control. Go to sleep, Lucas said quietly. Her breath was still unsteady. That sounded like retreat. His gaze remained steady. It was discipline. Silence. She nodded slowly, then walked past him toward the staircase. But as she moved, she felt it, his gaze following. Not strategic, not analytical. Something else now. Something he had not fully contained. And they both knew. The next time one of them stepped closer, restraint might not be enough. The next morning, Luca did not appear at breakfast. He rarely missed routine. Today, the chair at the head of the table remained empty. Laura noticed immediately. She did not ask. She ate slowly, calmly, as if the absence meant nothing. But it did. By 10:00 a.m. he had already left the estate for meetings. No message, no instruction, no acknowledgement of the night before. It was deliberate. She felt it in the precision of it. At 3:14 p.m. she entered the main study. His desk was cleared, his chair aligned perfectly. No lingering documents. He had removed himself completely from her orbit. Not avoidance. Control. He was rebalancing. He returned at 8:32 p.m. Laura stood near the balcony doors in the lower hall when he walked in. His jacket remained on, his expression neutral. His gaze passed over her and moved on. Not cold, just measure. Good evening, she said. Good evening, he replied calmly. No pause. No wait. No acknowledgement of what had shifted. Her pulse tightened slightly. You were gone all day, she said. Yes. That's unusual. Business required it. Silence. He walked past her toward his office. No invitation. No friction. That was worse. At dinner, he spoke only about logistics. Shipments. Security. Territory updates. He did not sit beside her. He did not touch her. He did not look at her longer than necessary. He had folded emotion back into discipline, and it felt like distance. After dinner, she followed him to the corridor outside his office. You're recalibrating, she said quietly. He paused before opening the door. I am functioning normally. Luca replied. That's not what this is, she said. He turned slowly. His gaze was calm again. Too calm. What would you prefer? He asked. Honesty, she replied. Silence. You challenge my restraint, he said evenly. You responded, she countered. Yes. And now, and now I am correcting imbalance. The word imbalance struck deep. I didn't destabilize you, she said softly. His gaze held hers. You underestimate the effect of proximity, Lucas said. A pause, an intentional provocation. Her chest tightened. So this is punishment, she said. No. Then what? His voice lowered slightly. Containment. That word was sharper. She felt it. You're containing yourself, she said. Yes. From what? Silence stretched. Then, from wanting something I have not fully evaluated, Luca replied. Her pulse fluttered. You don't withdraw from business risks, she said. You are not business, he replied. The honesty was quiet, but it landed. You're stepping back, she said. Yes. Why? Because if I step forward again without control, Lucas said calmly, it will not be subtle. The air shifted, not explosive, heavy. You think distance fixes that? She asked. It clarifies it, he replied. Silence. He moved to open his office door. She spoke before he could disappear. Does it? She asked. He paused. A long moment passed. No, he admitted. The vulnerability was small, but real. She stepped slightly closer. You're not afraid of enemies, she said. No, but you're cautious of attachment. His jaw tightened faintly. Yes. Silence settled between them. She studied him carefully. You don't get to retreat and pretend nothing shifted, she said quietly. His gaze sharpened slightly. I don't pretend, Luca replied. You're avoiding. I am stabilizing. The words were controlled, but she could hear it now. The strain underneath. You think distance gives you leverage, she said. It gives me clarity, he corrected. And what have you clarified? She asked. His gaze dropped briefly to her lips, then returned to her eyes. That you are not neutral, Lucas said quietly. Her breath slowed. Neither are you. A long pause. His voice lowered. Correct. Silence. Heavy. Intimate. He stepped back slightly. I need control, he said. And you don't have it, she asked. I always have control, Luca replied. Abi, but I prefer not to test its limits repeatedly. There it was. He wasn't withdrawing because he didn't want her. He was withdrawing because he did, and that unsettled him. You're not as untouchable as you present, she said softly. His gaze darkened. I never claimed to be untouchable, Luca replied. Only disciplined. Silence. The space between them felt thinner again, but this time it was quiet tension, not charge. Suppress. If I step back too, she said carefully. What happens? His jaw flexed. Then the stabilizes, he replied. And if I don't? A pause. His voice dropped. Then I will have to decide whether to advance or remove myself entirely. The word entirely lingered. Her chest tightened. That sounds like threat, she said softly. It's reality, Luca replied. Silence. He opened the office door, then paused once more. You wanted influence, he said without turning. Yes. Influence comes with consequence. The door closed, and she stood in the corridor alone, not rejected, not dismissed, but aware of something new. He wasn't immune. He was cautious, and caution meant she mattered. Luca avoided her for 3 days. Not completely. Just enough. He spoke when necessary, maintained routine, restored precision, but he never lingered, never stood close, never allowed silence to stretch between them, never gave space for the charged stillness that had grown too familiar. It was controlled withdrawal, and Delar understood exactly what it meant. He was protecting discipline, which meant she had disrupted it. On the fourth evening, rain began just after sunset, soft at first, then steady. The estate quieted early. Staff retreated. Security rotations tightened under the weather. The hallways felt emptier than usual, hushed by the sound of rain striking tall windows. Laura found him in the lower library. Of course she did. He stood at a long table reviewing files, sleeves rolled, posture precise, lamplight cutting sharp shadows along his jaw. He didn't look up when she entered. "You should be resting," he said calmly. "I'm not tired," she replied. Silence. He continued reading. She walked closer, slowly, deliberately, stopping across the table from him. "You maintained distance for 72 hours," she said. His eyes remained on the document. "Yes, that's intentional. Yes, another step. You think distance restores balance." A pause. "Yes." She moved around the table, now standing beside him. "Plus," he finally looked up. Their eyes met. "You're testing that theory," Lucas said quietly. "Yes." Silence settled between them. Heavy. Measure. His voice lowered. "Laura." Not warning. Not command. Acknowledgement. She didn't step back. Instead, she reached out and placed her hand lightly on his wrist. Stillness exploded through the room. Not forceful. Not dramatic. Just contact. Warm skin against his pulse. His body froze. Not because he didn't expect movement. Because he hadn't expected choice. Her voice was quiet. "You stepped back," she said. "So I stepped forward." His gaze locked onto her fingers rested against him. His breathing changed, subtle but unmistakable. "You shouldn't do that," Lucas said softly. "Why?" she asked. His voice dropped lower. "Because I was succeeding in restraint." Her pulse quickened, but her hand did not move. "Were you?" she murmured. A long silence. He did not remove her touch. Did not move at all. The rain intensified against the windows. A steady, consuming sound. "You are not cautious," Lucas said quietly. "I am deliberate." Their eyes held. The air between them thickened. Her thumb shifted slightly against his wrist, barely movement, but enough to send tension up his arm. His jaw tightened. "Laura," he said again. This time warning. She stepped closer, now barely inches apart. "I don't want distance," she said softly. His voice was lower than before. "Distance is control. Distance is avoidance." Silence cracked tight between them. His free hand moved, not touching her, just bracing against the table behind her, trapping space without contact. "Close. Too close. Do you understand what happens?" he said quietly. "When you remove restraint intentionally?" Her breath slowed. "Yes." "And?" Her voice barely above a whisper. "I want to see if you still choose control." The words hit deep. He inhaled slowly. "Chart. Measure." His gaze dropped briefly to her lips, then back to her eyes. "You are dangerous," Lucas said softly. "You knew that." A beat passed. Then his hand moved. Not grabbing. Not claiming. But covering her hand where it rested on his wrist. Firm. Warm. Deliberate. Electric. Her breath caught. His voice dropped to its lowest point yet. "This is not distance," he said. No, it wasn't. They stood suspended in charged stillness. "When A deafening crack split the air. Not thunder. Too sharp. Too close. Glass shattered somewhere down the corridor. Security alarms erupted instantly. Red lights flashed across the ceiling. Luca moved faster than thought. His hand left hers, but only to seize her waist and pull her behind him. Gunfire echoed again. Closer. Inside the estate. Not outside. His voice was lethal calm. Stay behind me. Guards rushed past the doorway. Shouting. Footsteps thundered. Someone screamed down the hall. Lara's pulse slammed. This isn't perimeter fire, she said. No, Luca replied. His eyes were already calculating. Cold. Focus. This is internal breach. Another shot. Closer. He grabbed her hand again, not hesitation, not question. Command grip. Move. They rushed into the corridor, alarms blaring, lights pulsing, guards converging. Someone had gotten inside, and the distance Luca had tried to rebuild collapsed completely, because now survival required proximity, and proximity was exactly what neither of them had been able to resist. The corridor smelled like smoke and ozone. Red emergency lights pulsed along the ceiling. Security alarms cut through the air in steady, violent waves. Gunfire echoed again. Closer. Luca's grip tightened around Nalara's hand. Stay behind me, he repeated. I'm not fragile, she replied. You are not trained for this, he said calmly. Another shot rang out from the far end of the hall. A guard fell. Luca's expression shifted instantly. Cold. Precise. Lethal. He pushed Nalara toward the inner wall. Move toward the west stairwell, he instructed. And you? She demanded. I am ending this. Before she could argue, a figure emerged from the far corner. Black tactical gear. Weapon raised. The attacker saw her first. The muzzle shifted. Luca moved without hesitation. He stepped directly in front of her. The shot exploded. A sharp impact. Luca staggered half a step. Lara's breath stopped. For 1 second. He didn't move. Then, he fired. 2 clean shots. The attacker collapsed instantly. Silence crashed into the corridor. Smoke drifted slowly. Lara stared. Luca. He stood still. Too still. Then she saw it. Dark spreading through his shirt near his side. You're bleeding, she said. It's superficial, he replied calmly. It was not. He swayed slightly. Only slightly. But enough. She stepped forward, grabbing his arm. You took that for me. Yes. The word was quiet. Uncomplicated. Security flooded the corridor seconds later. Sir, breach neutralized. Seal the estate, Luca ordered evenly. His voice had not changed. His posture had not broken. But blood was slipping steadily down his side. Lara, he said, turning toward her. Secure room. That was not optional. The secure room was hidden behind a reinforced steel panel in the inner wing. Biometric lock. Concrete walls. No windows. No weak points. The door sealed with a heavy metallic echo. Silence swallowed the chaos outside. Only emergency lighting glowed faintly along the ceiling. Alara pushed him toward a steel bench along the wall. You're not fine, she said firmly. I am conscious, he replied. That's not the same. She tore open the first aid kit mounted on the wall. His shirt was soaked now. Remove it, she said. He hesitated only half a second. Then obeyed. The fabric came away slowly. The bullet had grazed along his ribs. Deep. Not lethal. But far from minor. You stepped in front of me, she said quietly as she pressed gauze against the wound. Yes. You didn't hesitate. No. Why? His breathing was steady, but heavier now. You were targeted. The simplicity of it struck her. You could have been killed, she said. Yes, and that didn't matter. He looked at her directly. It did. Silence filled the small reinforced room. The space was narrow, air heavy, nowhere to look except at each other. She pressed harder against the wound. He did not flinch. You're shaking, he observed quietly. I'm angry, she replied. At whom? At you. A faint shift crossed his expression. Why? He asked. Because you made that choice without asking me, she said. His voice lowered. I do not ask permission to protect. The words hit deep. You're not invincible, she whispered. No. The honesty disarmed her. He reached up slowly. His hand closed gently around her wrist, not restraining, grounding. You are not leverage, Lucas said quietly. Her breath caught. You're not obligation. Silence thickened. The emergency lights cast shadows across his bare chest, across the scar now visible beneath the blood. She saw more than injury. She saw vulnerability. You withdrew, she said softly. Yes. You tried to create distance. Yes. And you still stepped in front of a bullet. His voice lowered. Distance does not erase instinct. The words lingered. She finished bandaging him carefully. Her hands slowed. Neither of them moved away. The secure room felt smaller than before. He was shirtless. Close. Breathing heavier now that adrenaline had begun to fade. You could have died, she said again. His gaze held her steadily. I did not. That's not the point. Silence stretched. Then, his voice shifted. Lower, more personal. If something had happened to you, Lucas said quietly, I would not have remained rational. Her pulse spiked. You're not rational now, she replied softly. He almost smiled. Almost. No, he admitted. Their faces were inches apart. Not accidental. Not chaotic. Deliberate proximity forced by circumstance. Her hand was still resting lightly against his ribs. His hand was still wrapped around her wrist. Neither had moved. You wanted to test control, he murmured. Yes. You are seeing it now. Her breath slowed. This is control? Yes. A pause. I am choosing not to close the distance. The air shifted. Electric. You're injured, she whispered. I am aware. Then stop pretending restraint is strength. His gaze darkened slightly. It is, he said quietly. Is it? She challenged. A long silence passed. He studied her face slowly. Then his hand slid from her wrist to her waist. Firm, not hesitant, pulling her slightly closer. Not fully, but enough. This is not restraint, he said softly. Her breath hitched. No, she agreed. It wasn't. The world outside the secure room could have been burning. And here, it was only heat, only tension, only the space between them narrowing, until footsteps echoed outside the reinforced door. Sir, breach confirmed neutralized, a guard's voice called through the panel. Reality snapped back. Luca released her slowly. Control restored. But thinner now. More fragile. He stood carefully, slightly slower than usual. She noticed. He noticed her noticing. Say with me, he said quietly. It wasn't command. It wasn't strategy. It was something else. And she nodded, because the distance he tried to build had been destroyed the moment he chose her over himself. The estate was silent when they left the secure room. Too silent. The kind of silence that follows violence when everything living listens for what comes next. Security had sealed the breach. Guards lined the corridors. Broken glass had already been cleared. Efficiency had restored order, but not equilibrium. Luca walked slower than usual. Not dramatically, not weakly, just measure. The wound along his ribs had been bandaged tightly beneath a clean shirt, but every controlled breath told her it still hurt. He noticed her watching. I am functional, he said calmly. You are injured, she replied. Both statements were true. Neither of them argued. They reached his private wing. He stopped at his door. Pause. Usually this was where he would dismiss her. Usually this was where distance returned. Usually. He opened the door, stepped inside, then turned slightly toward her. Say, Luca said quietly. Not command, not strategy. Request disguised as simplicity. Her pulse softened. She entered without speaking. His room was dimly lit. Rain still touched the windows in soft rhythmic patterns. The world outside had settled into night again, unaware of what had nearly happened. He removed his jacket slowly, more carefully than usual. She stepped forward instinctively. You shouldn't move too quickly, she said. I am not fragile, he replied. You are bleeding through the bandage. That stopped him. A beat passed. Then he let her help. She unbuttoned his shirt carefully, slow, precise, gentle around the wound. His breathing changed slightly. Not pain. Awareness. She replaced the gauze, wrapped the bandage. Her fingers were steady, but the closeness, the quiet, the warmth of the skin under her hands. Neither of them commented on it. When she finished, she stepped back. Silence settled. The massive bed stood behind them, unavoidable, present. Neither of them looked at it immediately. You should rest, she said. Yes. A pause. And you? He asked. She didn't answer right away, because they both understood the implication. Normally, she would leave, return to her room, restore structure, restore control. But tonight, he had taken a bullet for her, and the distance between them no longer felt theoretical. You shouldn't be alone, she said quietly. His gaze lifted slowly to hers. I am not alone, Luca replied. The words carried weight. She swallowed. A long moment passed. Then he spoke again. You may stay, he said. Not invitation. Not suggestion. Permission. They lay on opposite sides of the bed, fully clothed, space between them. Not touching. Not even close. But aware. Deeply aware. The room was dark except for faint moonlight filtering through the curtains. His breathing was slow, controlled, but not fully asleep. Neither of them were. After several minutes, she spoke softly. Does it hurt? A pause. Yes. Not complaint. Truth. She turned slyly toward him. You still stepped in front of me. Yes. Would you do it again? Silence stretched. Then, yes. Her chest tightened. Even knowing this, she gestured faintly between them. Complicates things? His voice lowered. Especially because it complicates things. That answer settled deep. The silence returned. Quieter now. Warmer. Safer. After a while, she shifted slightly, just enough that the mattress moved. He noticed immediately. You are closer, he said softly. Yes. Why? Her voice was barely above a whisper. Because you're not as untouchable as you pretend. A long pause. He did not move away. Instead, his hand shifted slowly across the sheets. Not reaching. Just resting closer than before. A quiet adjustment of space. Mutual. Unspoken. Minutes passed. Or longer. Time softened. At some point, Exhaustion began to wane. His breathing deepened first, then hers. But before sleep fully took her, she felt it, the faintest shift. His fingers brushing lightly against the back of her hand, not gripping, not pulling, just contact, gentle, almost absent-minded, as if even in sleep, he preferred proximity. She did not move away. And that was the first night. Luca Morty slept beside someone he had not intended to want, and did not push her away. Laura woke first, not fully, just enough awareness to recognize warmth, stillness, breathing that wasn't her own. For one suspended second she didn't move. She didn't need to. She already knew. Her hand was still resting near his. Not held, not clasped, but close enough that the heat between their skin had never faded during the night. The faintest shift of air told her he was still asleep, or pretending to be. She kept her eyes closed, listening. His breathing was deeper than usual. Slower, less guarded. Pain had forced real rest from him, and she had stayed. Not because he asked again, because she chose not to leave. Awareness spread slowly through her body. The mattress dipped slightly toward his side. The quiet rhythm of rain still traced faint lines against the windows. Morning light filtered through the curtains in pale silver. Nothing dramatic, nothing obvious. Just the quiet fact of shared space, shared night, shared closeness that had not been negotiated or resisted. Then Luca moved. Barely. A slow inhale. A controlled exhale. He was awake now. She knew it instantly. And still, neither of them moved away. Silence stretched. Long, fragile. Then his voice, low and rough with sleep. You remained. Not accusation. Not surprise. Observation. Her eyes opened slowly. Yes. Another pause. You are closer than when we lay down, he said. She didn't deny it. So are you, she replied quietly. Silence returned. Neither of them shifted position. Neither of them created distance. They simply noticed. He turned his head slightly toward her. Not fully. Just enough that his voice no longer carried across space but into it. You slept, he said. Yes. You do not usually sleep easily in unfamiliar places. She blinked once. You noticed. Yes. A pause. And you? She asked softly. He did not answer immediately. Then, I slept more than expected. That was as close to admission as he would give. The air between them felt different in daylight. Less dangerous. More real. Which made it harder to ignore. She slowly pushed herself upright. Carefully, so the mattress wouldn't shift too much. He sat up a moment later. Controlled. Measure. But slower than usual. The injury reminded him. She noticed. Of course she noticed. Neither of them mentioned the way their hands had nearly touched. Neither mentioned the quiet closeness of the night. Neither mentioned that neither of them had pulled away first. You should change the bandage, she said calmly. Yes. He stood, moved to the dresser, removed his shirt carefully, not performing, not aware of her gaze, simply practical. But the quiet intimacy of the act in morning light without distance, without tension. It felt different from every moment before. She approached without being asked, replaced the gauze, retied the wrap. Her hands were steady. His breathing remained controlled, but closer now. Too familiar, too practiced, as if this routine already existed between them. When she finished, she stepped back. A pause. Then, thank you, Luca said quietly. 2 words. Simple, but new. She nodded once. The silence stretched again. But this time it was different. Not charged, not restrained, just aware, deeply aware. Breakfast is at 8, he said. Yes, you should eat. So should you. A beak. I will. Neither of them moved toward the door. Neither of them dismissed the other. They simply stood there existing in shared quiet as if something had shifted overnight. But neither of them intended to acknowledge it. Finally, she walked to the door. Pause. Without turning, she said softly, "You didn't send me away." His voice came from behind her. "No." A pause. "Will you tonight?" she asked. Silence. Long. Measure. Then, "I have not decided." She nodded once, and left. When the door closed behind her, Luca remained standing exactly where she left him, still, unmoving, aware of something he could not categorize. Not weakness, not distraction, not error. Something else. Something that had slept beside him, and had not felt like loss of control. The morning after she slept in his bed, nothing changed, and that was the problem. Breakfast was quiet. Luca sat at the head of the table as usual. Laura sat to his right, not because she was told to, but because it had slowly become her place. They spoke about shipments, security updates, weather disruptions affecting transport routes, normal things, controlled things. But something beneath it had shifted, and neither of them named it. At 9:32 a.m., Lucas stood. "I'll be in the office," he said, not looking at her, not avoiding her, just precise. She nodded. "I'll be in the library." They separated, as if distance had returned, as if last night had not happened, as if his fingers had not brushed hers in sleep, as if he had not chosen her over his own safety. But the estate felt different now. Staff watched her differently. Security adjusted slightly when she walked through corridors, not out of suspicion, but recognition. She had stayed in his wing. Word traveled without being spoken. That afternoon, she entered his office without knocking. He didn't look surprised. "You've abandoned formality entirely," he said calmly. "You stopped requiring it," she replied. Silence. He continued reviewing a file. She stood across from him, watching. He felt it. Of course he did. "You're staring," he said. "Yes." "Why?" "Because you're pretending nothing changed." A pause. His pen stopped moving, then resumed. "What changed?" Luca asked evenly. She stepped closer to the desk. "You didn't push me away." "I didn't." "You didn't move away in your sleep." His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "I was asleep," he said. "You don't lose awareness that easily." Silence. Heavy. Measure. He set the pen down slowly. "You're analyzing behavior," he said. "Yes." "To what end?" "To determine whether distance is still your strategy." A long pause. "It is," Luca replied. "Then why didn't you ask me to leave?" "Because the question wasn't tactical. It wasn't strategic. It was personal." His voice lowered slightly. "Because I didn't want you to." The honesty hit harder in daylight. She inhaled slowly. "Say that again," she said softly. His eyes lifted fully to hers. "I didn't want you to leave." Silence expanded between them. "They? Fragile." She walked around the desk, slowly, not touching him. Not yet. Stopping close enough that the edge of the desk no longer separated them. "You're not good at this part," she said quietly. "This part?" he asked. "Where control meets want." His breath shifted. "You assume I want." She didn't hesitate. "Yes." A pause. "And you assume correctly," he said. The words were quiet, almost dangerous in their calmness. The air changed, not explosive, but aware. Every inch between them felt deliberate. "You're not touching me," she said softly. "No, you could." "Yes. Why aren't you?" His gaze darkened slightly. "Because you would interpret it as surrender." Her pulse jumped. "And you don't surrender." "No." She stepped closer. 1 inch. Now there was barely space left. "I'm not asking you to surrender," she said. "Then what are you asking?" Her voice lowered. "To stop pretending this is one-sided." Silence cracked tight between them. His hand moved. Slowly. Not to grab. Not to claim. Just to rest on the desk beside her hip. Trapping space again. Not touching. But surrounding. "It is not one-sided," Lucas said quietly. Her breath hitched. "Then why are you still standing so carefully?" she asked. His voice dropped. "Because if I step forward without calculation." He didn't finish. He didn't need to. She could feel the tension in him. Not loss of control. Pressure contained by choice. "You're afraid of attachment," she said softly. "No." "Then what are you afraid of?" Silence stretched. Longer this time. Then, "I am cautious of permanence," Lucas said. That was new. "Why?" she asked. His gaze didn't waver. "Because permanence changes how you fight." The words were heavy. Real. He wasn't afraid of wanting her. He was afraid of what it would cost him to keep her. She stepped even closer. Now the desk no longer separated them at all. Her hand lifted slightly. Not hovering. Not teasing. Slow. Deliberate. And rested lightly against his chest. Over his heartbeat. The room went still. His breath deepened once. That was it. But she felt it. "You feel that," she said quietly. "Yes." "It changes when I'm this close." "Yes." He did not remove her hand. He did not move away. He stood there, disciplined, but aware. "You're not as cold as you present," she murmured. "I never claimed to be cold." "You claim to be controlled." "I am." A beat. "But control is not absence." Her pulse fluttered. "No," she agreed. "It is delay." Silence. They charged. Neither of them moved. Not forward. Not back. Just suspended. Then, very slowly, his hand rose. Not to her waist. Not to her face. Just to her wrist. He wrapped his fingers around it. Firm. Steady. Warm. He lowered her hand from his chest. Not rejecting. Not dismissing. Just choosing restraint. "You're testing endurance," Lucas said quietly. "Yes." "And you enjoy watching it strain." Her breath softened. "Yes." He held her gaze. "And what happens when endurance runs out?" She whispered. "We find out." The tension tightened, almost unbearable. And still, he didn't kiss her. He didn't pull her closer. He didn't close the distance. Because slow burn means almost. Almost touching. Almost losing control. Almost crossing. And almost is sometimes more powerful than impact. When she finally stepped back, it felt louder than any gunshot. Because both of them knew. The line between discipline and desire was thinning. And neither of them wanted to retreat any more. It was late. Not quite night. Not fully evening. That quiet in-between hour when the estate softened, when footsteps faded, when the world felt suspended between movement and stillness. Laura found him in the library again. He stood by the tall window, one hand resting against the glass, city lights stretching far beyond the estate walls. His reflection hovered faintly in the pane, dark, still, controlled. He didn't turn when she entered. You walk more quietly now, Lucas said. She stopped a few steps behind him. You notice more now, she replied. A pause. Yes. Silence filled the room. Heavy books, low light, rain still whispering faintly outside. She moved closer, not directly beside him, just nearer, enough that the air shifted. He felt it immediately. You don't hesitate any more, Lucas said quietly. I learned hesitation doesn't change outcomes. Another pause. You're certain of that? He asked. Yes. He turned then. Slowly. Their eyes met. Something changed in the room the moment he faced her fully. Not tension. Not conflict. Something quieter. More dangerous. Awareness without distraction. She stepped closer. One step. Then another. Until the distance between them was no longer conversational. It was personal. He didn't move away, but his breathing deepened once. That was the only visible reaction. You watch me differently now, she said softly. Yes. How? A long silence. Then, more carefully, Luca replied. Her pulse shifted. Why? His voice lowered. Because proximity alters judgment. The word settled between them. Real. And hidden. She lifted her hand slowly. Not sudden. Not testing. Just intentional. Her fingers rested lightly against the front of his shirt. Over his chest. Over the steady rhythm beneath. His breath changed again. Deeper. Slower. He did not remove her hand. He did not speak. He simply looked at her. And that look held more weight than touch ever could. You feel that, she whispered. Yes. It's not calm. No. A pause. It's not control either. His gaze darkened slightly. It is controlled, he said quietly. She shook her head faintly. No, it's restrained. Silence stretched. Neither of them moved. The world beyond the library could have disappeared entirely. His hand rose slowly. Not to hold her. Not to claim. Just to rest lightly against her waist. Warm. Steady. Present. Her breath caught. He felt it. And something inside him tightened. Not possessive, not impulsive, but aware of the line they were approaching. They stood like that for a long moment. Breathing the same air. Sharing the same space. Too close to ignore. Too aware to pretend. Then, he leaned closer. Slowly. Not sudden. Not overwhelming. Just inevitable. The distance between their faces narrowed inch by inch. Her breath softened. His hand at her waist tightened slightly, not pulling, just anchoring. Their foreheads almost touched. Her eyes lifted to his. His gaze dropped to her lips. Silence roared between them. Every second stretched unbearably long. She didn't move away. He didn't stop moving closer. Their breaths mingled. Warm and steady. The space between their mouths. Barely there. Almost nothing. Her fingers curled slightly against his chest. His thumb pressed once at her waist. The smallest movement, but it felt seismic. And then he stopped. Not abruptly. Not in shock. Deliberately. His eyes closed briefly as if steadying something internal, something tightening, something dangerously close to giving way. When he opened them again, he did not move closer. He did not move away. He simply remained there, so close their breath still touched. His voice was barely sound. If I kiss you now. The sentence didn't finish immediately. He swallowed once. It will not be measured. Her pulse pounded. Then don't measure it, she whispered. His jaw tightened. That is exactly why I must. The words carried strain now. Real strain. Not performance. not strategy, effort. She didn't step back. Neither did he. They stayed suspended in that impossible closeness. Her voice softer now. Is this fear? His answer came instantly. No. A pause. This is consequence. The word landed heavy. What consequence? She asked quietly. His gaze held her steadily. The moment I cross that line, Lucas said softly, I will not step back from you again. Her breath caught sharply. And that matters to you? Yes. Silence trembled between them. Not fragile. Not weak. Just full. Full of everything not yet allowed to happen. His hand slid from her waist. Slowly, reluctantly, he stepped back half a step. Distance returned. But it felt louder now. More noticeable. More wrong. She exhaled slowly. You almost did, she said. Yes. You wanted to. Yes. You still do. His voice lowered. Yes. No denial. No shield. Just truth. She studied him for a long moment, then whispered, You're not protecting me. His gaze darkened. No. You're protecting yourself. A pause. Yes. Silence filled the space again. But something had changed. The line had not been crossed, but it had been reached. Wholly. Completely. Irreversibly. When she finally turned to leave, neither of them pretended that restraint meant distance any more, because they both knew now. It wasn't a matter of if, only when. The next morning felt wrong. Not chaotic. Not tense. Just altered. Laura entered the dining room at exactly 8. Luca was already seated. He did not look up immediately. He was reading, or pretending to. She took her usual seat to his right. Close. Close enough that the memory of last night hovered between them like heat trapped in air. Neither spoke. Tea was poured. Plates set down. Silverware shifted. Normal sounds. A normal awareness. At 8:07 a.m. he finally looked at her. Briefly. Measure. His gaze dropped, just once, to her mouth. Then returned to his plate. It was subtle. But she saw it. And her pulse responded immediately. You slept, he said. Yes. A pause. So did you. Yes. Nothing else. No reference to the library. No mention of breath mingling. No acknowledgement of the fact that he had almost lost control. It was strategic silence. And she knew it. At 9:12 a.m. they passed each other in the east corridor. The hallway was narrow. Stone walls. No room for comfortable space. Normally, one of them would step aside. Today, neither did immediately. They stopped inches apart. He waited. She waited. The space between them was intimate by default. And it felt intentional. You're blocking the corridor, Luca said quietly. So are you, she replied. His eyes held hers. For one long second. Neither moved. Then he stepped aside. Barely. Just enough for her to pass. As she did, her shoulder brushed his chest. Accidental. But not entirely. The contact was brief. Electric. His breath shifted sharply. She heard it. She didn't look back. But she felt his gaze follow her down the corridor long after. By afternoon, the estate had returned to routine. But routine felt different. He was watching her now. Not overtly. Not constantly. But carefully. As if every movement she made could tip something internal. At 4:38 p.m. she entered the study. He stood by the desk. Alone. Waiting. He didn't pretend to read this time. You're avoiding the subject, she said calmly. Yes, he replied. Silence. She stepped closer, not touching, not challenging, just present. Why? She asked. His voice was steady, because naming it changes it. Her pulse softened. Changes it how? A pause, from tension to decision. The words were deliberate. She studied him carefully. And you're not ready to decide. His gaze sharpened slightly. I already have. Her breath caught. And, and I will not rush it. Silence settled. Heavy. Measure. You think this is rushing? She asked softly. His eyes flickered, briefly, to her lips again. Then back. Yes. A beat. And no. She waited. You are deliberate, he said quietly. But you are not patient. Her brow lifted faintly. And you are patient. Yes. Silence. Is patience control? She asked. Or fear of consequence? His jaw tightened slightly. It is discipline. And what happens when discipline fails? His voice dropped. It does not. But something in the way he said it was thinner than before. She moved closer. Not dramatic. Not provocative. Just close enough that her breath brushed his collar. Last night, she said softly, you didn't fail. No, you chose not to. Yes. And you're still choosing. Yes. Their eyes locked. The air between them felt stretched thin, fragile and strong at the same time. You're not distancing yourself, she said quietly. No, you're containing it. Yes. Her voice lowered. For how long? Silence. Longer this time. Then, until I am certain. Certain of what? His gaze held her steady. That crossing that line will not make you regret it. The answer was clean. Not dramatic. Not possessive. Protective. In a way that was more dangerous than hunger. Her chest tightened unexpectedly. You think I would regret it? I think you do not fully understand what it means, Luca replied quietly. And what does it mean? She asked. A pause. It means permanence. The word settled heavy. Permanent was not casual. Permanent was not temporary desire. Permanent was not a mistake. Permanent was commitment. Ownership without ownership. Choice without retreat. Silence filled the room. The tension hadn't decreased. It had deepened. Not frantic. Not unstable. Just weightier. Finally, he stepped back first. A small movement, but significant. I will not kiss you until I am prepared to keep you, Lucas said quietly. Her pulse skipped. And if I decide first? She asked. His gaze darkened. Then I will have to catch up. The corner of her mouth shifted faintly. Not a smile. Something softer. More dangerous. When she left the study, the silence between them remained. Not awkward. Not broken. Just waiting. Because slow burn isn't about explosion. It's about heat that refuses to disappear. And now, neither of them could pretend it wasn't there. Laura stood on the balcony outside his private wing. The doors were open. The air was cool. City lights flickered in the distance. She heard him before she saw him. Measured steps. Unhurried. You're awake? Lucas said. Yes. He stepped beside her. Close, but not touching. The silence between them wasn't strained anymore. It was heavy with decision. You've been thinking, she said softly. Yes. About permanence. Yes. A pause. And he didn't answer immediately. Instead, he turned toward her fully. No desk. No corridor. No interruption. Just open night air and inches of space. You said you didn't want delay, he said quietly. I don't. Her voice was steady. His gaze dropped to her mouth. Not hidden now. Not disguise. Open. Deliberate. You understand what this means, Lucas said. I do. And you won't retreat. No. Silence stretch. One final moment of stillness. He stepped closer. No hesitation this time. No testing. No calculation. His hand lifted to her waist. Firm. Certain. Not asking. Choosing. Her breath slowed but didn't falter. Their foreheads nearly touched. His voice was low. If I kiss you, you won't step back, she finished. No. She didn't look away. Then don't. That was it. The permission. The choice. The surrender of restraint. He closed the distance. Slow at first. Just enough for his mouth to brush hers. Not claiming. Testing. Her fingers tightened in his shirt. He felt it. And the control he had guarded for weeks. Shifted. Not shatter. Shifted. His hand moved from her waist to the small of her back, pulling her closer. Not gently. Not roughly. Decisively. The kiss deepened. Not frantic, but hungry in a way that had been building too long. All that restraint. All that almost. All that silence. Released into contact. She responded immediately. No hesitation. No doubt. Her hands rose to his shoulders, fingers curling slightly, anchoring. He made a quiet sound, barely audible, but real. Not control. Not calculation. Something rawer. He tilted his head slightly, slowed, then deepened again, measured heat becoming something heavier, intent layered with one. His thumb traced upward along her spine. Her breath broke softly against his mouth. The world beyond the balcony dissolved. No empire. No strategy. No power. Just proximity finally acknowledged. When he finally pulled back, it wasn't far. Barely an inch. Their foreheads rested together. Breathing uneven now. Change. You're not patient, he murmured softly. No. His thumb brushed lightly along her jaw. And I am no longer pretending to be. She felt the difference in him. Not colder. Not restrained. Focus. Certain. You crossed it, she said quietly. Yes. And his gaze held hers. And I do not regret it. There was no hesitation in that. No doubt. No calculation. Just truth. He kissed her again. Not slower this time. Not measured. This time it was deliberate. Possessive without ownership. Intense without force. As if the weeks of tension had been compressed into a single, undeniable choice. And neither of them stepped back. Not this time. When they finally separated, the air felt different. Change. Irreversible. He kept his hand at her waist. Not withdrawing. Not distancing. You wanted no delay, Lucas said quietly. Yes. You have it. Her pulse was still racing. And you? She asked softly. His voice dropped. I do not intend to retreat. And that was the real shift. Not the kiss. Not the heat. But the decision to remain. Laura woke before the sun fully rose. For a few quiet seconds, she didn't move, didn't think, didn't remember. She simply existed in warm stillness breath that wasn't hers. Then memory returned. Balcony air. His hand at her waist. The way he stopped measuring and chose. Her pulse shifted slowly awake with her. She turned her head slightly. Luca was already awake. Not moving. Not watching her openly. But aware. He always woke before movement, before sound, before light change. You're staring, she murmured softly. I am observing, he replied. His voice was rougher than usual. Lower. Sleep and something else layered into it. She turned onto her side fully now, facing him. You didn't move away, she said. No. You didn't pretend it didn't happen. No. A pause. Good, she whispered. Something almost like warmth moved through his expression. Morning light spilled slowly across the room, soft and pale, turning everything quieter, more real a shadow than the night before. They were close, not touching, but close enough that distance felt artificial, different from before. Before, closeness had been tension. Now it was presence. Chosen. You're thinking, she said. Yes. Regret. His gaze sharpened immediately. No. No hesitation. None. Her chest eased. Adjustment, she asked. A pause. Yes. That was honest. That was Luca. He shifted slightly, careful of the wound at his ribs. The movement drew a faint tightening across his expression. She noticed instantly. Does it hurt more this morning? She asked. Yes. Because you slept poorly. No. A beat. Because I did not maintain distance. Her breath softened. He wasn't saying it as complaint. Just fact. Contact changes awareness. Awareness changes sensation. She lifted her hand slowly. Pause. Watching him. He didn't stop her. Didn't brace. Didn't retreat. Her fingers rested lightly against the edge of the bandage along his side. Gentle. Careful. Intentional. His breath deepened once. You're not cautious, he said quietly. I'm careful, she corrected. Silence settled. Her touch didn't move. Neither did he. Morning quiet wrapped around them like something fragile and new. You crossed the line last night, she said softly. Yes. You said that meant permanence. Yes. She studied him carefully. And now, his gaze held her steadily. Now I behave accordingly. Her pulse fluttered. What does that mean? His voice lowered. It means I do not treat you as temporary. The words landed deep, heavy, steady. No dramatics. No flourish. Just certainty. Silence filled the space between them. Not charged. Not restrained. Just real. He reached out slowly then. Not fast. Not intense. His fingers brushed a strand of her hair back from her face. A small gesture. Uncontrolled. Unstrategic. Instinctive. She stilled. That was new. More intimate than the kiss. Because this wasn't he. This was familiarity. You're different this morning, she whispered. Yes. How? He considered that. Longer than usual. Then, I am no longer deciding whether to want you. Her breath caught. And now, I am deciding how to keep you. The word settled like gravity. Not possession. Not ownership. Intent. They stayed like that for a long moment. Just looking. Not analyzing. Not measuring. Just aware. Eventually, she sat up slowly. He followed a moment later. The room filled with soft morning light now. Clear. Undeniable. Irreversible. At the edge of the bed, she paused. You know everything is different now, she said quietly. Yes. No more pretending distance is strategy. No. No more restraint as avoidance. No. She turned slightly toward him. And if this becomes dangerous? His answer came without hesitation. It already is. A pause. And I am not retreating. When she stood to leave, he spoke again. Laura. She turned. His gaze was steady, certain, grounded. You do not need permission to stay tonight. Her pulse softened. Or tomorrow, he added, not command, not expectation, just truth. She nodded once, then left. When the door closed behind her, Lucas sat still for a long moment, not calculating, not planning, not controlling, just feeling the shift. He had crossed the line, and something inside him, something disciplined and guarded for years, had chosen not to step back. Outside the room, Laura paused in the corridor. Her fingers brushed lightly against her lips, not in disbelief, not in wonder, in recognition, because slow burn had become something else now. Not tension, not almost, not possibility, choice, mutual, deliberate, unavoidable. On the first morning after the kiss, Laura entered the kitchen without thinking. Not the formal dining hall, not the staff-prepared breakfast, the actual kitchen. Warm light, low conversation, the faint scent of coffee already brewing. The staff paused when they saw her, not uncertain, not surprised, just acknowledging. Good morning, she said simply. They greeted her like she belonged, because now she did. Luca found her there at 7:18 a.m., standing near the counter, pouring tea, barefoot, calm, as if she had always moved through his home this way. He stopped in the doorway. Watch, not hidden, not announced, just taking in the quiet image of her existing comfortably in his space. You've changed the routine, he said. She turned slightly. I woke earlier. A pause, and the dining room felt unnecessary. He stepped closer. The staff does not mind, he said. I didn't think they would. Silence. Easy. Natural. That was new. She handed him a cup without asking how he took it. He noticed immediately. You remembered, he said. You don't add sugar, she replied. He accepted it. Their fingers brushed briefly. Neither pulled away quickly. Not like before. Now the contact felt expected. They stood beside each other in quiet morning light. No tension. No strategic distance. Just shared stillness. He drank slowly. You slept well, he said. Yes. You remain in my wing. Yes. No hesitation. No permission requested. No permission needed. By the third morning, it had become routine. She entered the kitchen first. He followed. She poured tea. He reviewed reports. Sometimes they spoke. Sometimes they didn't. Silence had become companionable. In the evenings, she stopped returning to her room automatically. Not always, but often. Sometimes she read in the chair near his window. Sometimes she sat at the desk while he worked. Sometimes they shared space without speaking for long stretches of time. No performance. No tension. Just presence. One night, he looked up from his work and realized something subtle. She had fallen asleep in the chair near the window, book resting against her chest, head tilted slightly, breathing slow, comfortable, in his room, without hesitation, without waiting for invitation, without fear. He stood slowly, careful of his healing side, crossed the room, and paused in front of her. He watched her for several seconds, not studying, not analyzing, just observing something quiet and human. Then he reached down, lifted the book from her hands, set it aside. She stirred slightly, didn't wait. He considered leaving her there, but instead, he bent slightly, one arm behind her back, one beneath her knees, lifted her carefully, slowly, deliberately. She stirred again just enough to shift closer against his chest, instinctively settling. He stilled for one long second. Something deep in his expression changed. Not surprise. Recognition. He carried her to the bed, set her down gently, pulled the covers over her. She didn't wait, didn't question, didn't resist, because somewhere along the way, safety had become assumed. He stood there longer than necessary, watching her sleep in his space, in his bed, without negotiation, without strategy, without tension, just belonging. When he finally lay down beside her, he did not hesitate, did not maintain distance, did not calculate space. He simply settled beside her as if it had always been this way. And sometime in the night, her hand found his, not consciously, not deliberately, just instinct. He did not move it away. The next morning, neither mentioned it, but both noticed the way their hands separated slowly, reluctantly. By the fifth day, the staff stopped asking which room she would return to at night. They already knew. By the sixth day, Luca began adjusting his work hours around when she read, not intentionally, just naturally. By the seventh day, the house no longer felt like his, or hers. It felt shared, and neither of them had formally decided that. It had simply happened. One evening, as they stood side by side reviewing architectural plans for one of his properties, she spoke quietly. "You stopped guarding space." He didn't look up from the blueprint. "Yes." "Why?" A pause. Then, "Because you stopped feeling temporary." The words were simple, but they settled deep. She turned slightly toward him. "And that doesn't concern you?" His answer came calmly. "It concerns me greatly." Silence. Then she asked softly, "And yet you didn't change it?" He finally looked at her. "No, Abby, I allowed it." That was the real shift. Not the kiss, not the touch, not the night she stayed, but the moment space stopped being negotiated and started being shared. It happened quietly. No argument, no trigger, no dramatic confession. Just late night stillness and honesty that had waited long enough. Laura sat on the floor of his study, back against the sofa, papers spread loosely around her. Lucas stood near the desk, finishing a call. When he ended it, he didn't return to work. He watched her instead. "You've been quieter tonight," she said without looking up. "Yes." A pause. "You're thinking about permanence again." He didn't deny it. "No." She set the papers aside. "Then say it." Silence filled the room. Heady, real. He walked slowly toward the window, not to avoid her, but to stand where he could see beyond the estate walls. "My father built something once," Lucas said. She stilled. He rarely referenced family. "He built an alliance, territory, stability," he continued. "He built it around trust." His voice was steady, too steady. "And," she asked softly, "he trusted the wrong person." A pause. "And everything burned." Not metaphorical, not poetic, literal. He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. She could see it in the way his shoulders held tension. "You think permanence is vulnerability," she said. "Yes." "And vulnerability gets destroyed." "Yes." Silence stretched. She stood slowly, walked toward him. Not rushing, not dramatic, just present. "You built something too," she said. "I did." "And you control it." "Yes." But this, she gestured faintly between them, "isn't something you can control the same way." He looked at her then. Direct, unshielded. "That is precisely the problem." Her breath softened. You're not afraid of wanting me. No, you're afraid of needing me. The truth landed between them like something fragile. He didn't deny it. No one who stands beside me remains untouched, Lucas said quietly. And you don't want that for me. No. Silence. She stepped closer. You already stepped in front of the bullet, she said softly. You already chose me. His jaw tightened. Yes. So stop pretending permanence hasn't already begun. The words hit deep. He searched her face. For doubt. For hesitation. For regret. Found none. You could walk away, he said. I won't. You would be safer. I don't want safe. Silence filled the space again. But it wasn't fragile anymore. It was steady. You think I will destroy what I care about, she said quietly. I think the world will try. Then let it try. Her voice didn't shake. He studied her for a long moment. Then, for the first time, he stepped forward without hesitation. Not slow. Not testing. Certain. He placed his hand at her waist. Pulled her closer. Not urgently. Intentionally. You are not temporary, Lucas said. The words were not whispered. Not hesitant. Statement. And something in his expression changed. Not control. Commitment. She rested her forehead against his chest. He didn't hold back. Didn't calculate space. Didn't guard proximity. He simply wrapped his arms around her. Fully. Not restrained. Not partial. Complete. This was not heat. Not hunger. Not tension. This was choice. And it felt heavier than anything before. He spoke quietly against her hair. If you stay. I am staying. A pause. If you stay fully. I don't do half, she replied. He exhaled slowly, the last piece of hesitation leaving him. Then, then you are mine. Not ownership. Not possession. Declaration. And she didn't flinch. She didn't correct it. She simply answered, and you are not alone. The estate's main conference room was filled that afternoon. Long table. 12 seats. Senior advisors. Territory maps projected across the far wall. Laura entered beside Luca. Not behind him. Not following. Beside. The room quieted automatically. It always did when he walked in. But this time, the silence held something extra. Observation. Assessment. Calculation. Luca reached the head of the table. Pause. Then, without announcement, without explanation, he pulled out the chair to his right. Not for guests. Not for an observer. For her. Laura, he said calmly. One word. Invitation. Not suggestion. The room shifted. Settled, but undeniable. She met his gaze. There was no performance in his expression. No testing. No hesitation. Just certainty. She took the seat. No one objected. No one questioned. But eyes moved. Quickly. Carefully. Trying to measure what this meant. Luca didn't address it. He simply began the meeting. Proceed, he said, and the room obeyed. Halfway through the discussion, one of the older advisors, Matteo, spoke carefully. With respect, Luca, Matteo said, certain details are internal. Not dismissive. Not insulting. Just cautious. Luca didn't look at him immediately. He finished reading the document in his hand, then lifted his gaze. She is internal, Luca replied. Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. Matteo nodded once, and continued. Laura didn't speak at first. She listened. Watch. Measure. But this time, not as an outsider, not as leverage, as position. At one point, Luca passed a document toward her, without comment, without explanation. She read it quickly, adjusted one number, pushed it back. He glanced at it, nodded once, approved. No announcement, no explanation, just integration. By the end of the meeting, something irreversible had occurred. Not a declaration, not an announcement, but acknowledgement. The seat beside him was no longer empty, and no one dared question it. Later that evening, as the advisers filtered out, Matteo lingered. He approached Luca directly. "Is this permanent?" he asked quietly. Luca did not look uncertain. "Yes." Matteo glanced briefly toward Alara, then back to Luca. "Then she must understand what that position costs." Luca's voice was calm. "She does." No elaboration, no defense, just certainty. Matteo nodded and left. When they were alone, Alara turned toward him. "You didn't warn me." "No." "You didn't ask." "No." Silence. "You decided." "Yes." A pause. "And you didn't hesitate." "No." Her voice softened slightly. "That was risk." "Yes." "Why take it?" He stepped closer. "Not urgent. Not restrained. Balance." "Because I am finished behaving as if you are temporary," Lucas said. The word settled deep. "You could have kept it private," she said. "I do not build foundations privately." That was it. That was the shift. Not desire. Not possession. Structure. Integration. She stepped closer. Now the room felt smaller again. "You didn't look at me before pulling out the chair," she said. "I didn't need to." Her pulse warmed. "You assumed I would sit." "Yes." "And if I hadn't?" A faint flicker crossed his expression. "Then I would have adjusted." A pause. "But I was certain you would." Silence. He wasn't guessing. He wasn't hoping. He knew. "You said permanence changes how you fight," she said softly. "Yes." "And now?" His gaze held hers. "Now I fight differently." Her breath slowed. "For me." "For us." The word landed steady. "Shared. Chosen." He stepped closer. No tension now. No restraint. Just presence. "You wanted no delay," Lucas said quietly. "You gave me none. And you wanted no retreat." "I didn't." A pause. "And I am not retreating." That night, when they returned to his wing, there was no uncertainty. No question of which room she would sleep in. No hesitation. No testing. Just shared space that had become structure. The estate felt different. Not louder. Not busier. Just settled, as if something had aligned beneath it. Laura noticed it in the smallest ways. Guards didn't hesitate when she gave instruction. Saf no longer glanced toward Luca for confirmation when she adjusted something. Meetings flowed with her presence assumed. No announcement had been made. None was needed. Luca had pulled out a chair, and the world had recalibrated. That evening, they stood together on the balcony where the first shot had once shattered glass. The air was clear. No rain. No alarms. No danger. Just city lights stretching endlessly beyond the estate walls. "You rebuilt the window," she said softly. "Yes." "You didn't replace the railing." "No." "Why?" He looked at the stone edge where his hand had once gripped as he shielded her. "A reminder," Lucas said. "Of what?" "That control is not protection." Silence. He turned toward her fully. "You changed the way I calculate risk," he said. She didn't smile. Didn't tease. She took it seriously. That wasn't my intention. I know. A pause. But it is the outcome. She stepped closer, not because she needed to, because she belonged there now. You built this empire on discipline, she said. Yes. And now, he didn't hesitate. Now I build it with you beside me. The words weren't dramatic. They were steady, grounded, and final. She studied him for a long moment. You don't look uncertain anymore, she said. I am not. About permanence. No. Silence. About me. His hand lifted slowly, rested against her waist, not possessive, not cautious. Familiar. No. The certainty in his voice was unshakable. You were afraid of losing something permanent, she said quietly. Yes. And now, his gaze held hers. If I lose it, Lucas said calmly, I will have chosen it first. That was the difference. Not fear of loss, acceptance of risks. She rested her head lightly against his chest, not for reassurance, not for comfort, just because it fit. He wrapped his arms around her without hesitation. No restraint left to manage, no distance to maintain, just shared space. You didn't just cross the line, she murmured. No, you rebuilt it. A faint breath of something almost like a laugh left him. Yes. Silence settled around them, peaceful, not tense, not waiting for disruption, just complete. After a moment, he spoke quietly. There will always be risk. I know. There will always be consequence. I know. And I will not soften for anyone who threatens what is mine. She lifted her head slightly. What is yours? His eyes didn't waver. You. Not ownership. Not control. Recognition. Choice. Foundation. She didn't correct him. Didn't argue. Didn't test it. Instead, she answered in the only way that mattered. Then stand beside me, she said. I am. And don't step in front of me again. A beat. He almost smiled. No. They stayed there long after the city lights blurred into darkness. No urgency. No hunger. No unfinished tension. Because everything that needed to be decided had been. Inside, the estate no longer felt like his fortress. Or her cage. It felt shared. Built. Chosen. He had been ruthless with everyone else. Calculated. Unmovable. Unreachable. But when it came to her, he hadn't fallen. He had chosen. And that made all the difference.